How's it going, everybody? I am Donut. This is, of course, a Black Lives Matter, all cops are bastards, and trans rights supporting channel. And if you ain't supporting that shit, then you can get the fuck right out of here. This is Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you want to see the full length, check it out in the description below. Here's my little brief, predictions for what the movie is going to be. I, first of all, really hope that we see Luis and the gang again, because Scott, it very easily just has Hope as a secondary character here with the Wasp, but she's going to be, in the same way that, like, Rhodey or Sam are, where, like, they are sidekicks, but they're also extremely, big. Like, they are powerful enough to be able to just stand on their own and stuff. So, I think it would be more interesting to have more of the sidekicks that aren't as, like, capable as the normal people, or are just like normal humans that help. And we're starting to get a little bit more of that, like with Black Panther and stuff. So I was very surprised to see those kind of people for Black Panther, like Shuri, in Infinity War. So I'm very excited to see, or not very excited for it, but I'm hoping to see Luis and the gang in this movie, because I think that will let me know that there's potential that they'll do stuff with them in future movies, even crossovers and stuff like that. So that's the main thing that I'm looking for, just to like see what they're going to do with that going forward. Again, I'm interested to see, how Hope is going to fight with, like, Scott alongside him and everything, how that's going to work. Is it going to be a thing where she's going off to do something on her own and Scott doesn't know about it yet? Because it does seem like she's going to try and sneakily do some stuff behind her father's back first. So, or no, not behind his back, because he did say, like, yeah, I want you to have this at the end and everything. So, but still, I don't think we're going to immediately jump into with them working together. So, I assume the thing at the end of Ant-Man with the vial that someone in Hydra, took away and all that, that's probably going to be what our plot is about, recovering that, or just the repercussions of that. So, it could be still more Hydra-focused stuff here, but I'm not sure how much they're going to want to do that. So, I don't really have any predictions besides that. It's going to be curious to see what they're going to do with the, like, giant man stuff, like, how that's going to work on a individual movie sort of thing. Like, that feels kind of, not overpowered, but it feels very, you gotta be in a big open area. It's not like he's going to be going between small and big very often. Most of the places where I feel like Ant-Man fights are in buildings, I would assume, because he seems very infiltrating. So, I'm curious to see what that's going to be like in a fight, in a place that's not like an airport. And if Hope can do the same thing, like if Wasp can also do that. Let's find out. Okay, it's discussion time, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Woo-hoo. So, I will say that this is definitely, I don't know where to rank this movie, because I enjoyed the movie, but when I think of it as an MCU movie, I would rank it incredibly low.
Okay.
Because it's the first MCU movie where I've watched and gone, well, you've, like, this and, like, Dark World, I think. Thor the Dark World is also, there's so many problems with Thor the Dark World in terms of, like, plot stuff that, has gone forward with the, like, space and universes and planes and all that, like, terminology and everything.
Sure.
And this also one is, like, another MCU movie that, like, it's just, it doesn't work timeline-wise, it doesn't work character-wise, it feels, like, weird if it's supposed to be happening where it is and everything. Mm-hmm. So, as a movie that takes place out of time, it's fine.
Sure.
But if I have to believe that this movie is taking place where they say it's taking place, it's a bad movie. So it's really hard to judge it based on that.
Actually, weird question. Do you think you would have enjoyed this movie more if you had seen it prior to Infinity War?
No. As I said, I am very glad that I did not see, like, regardless of the post-credit scene, I'm very glad I did not, because I would have been complaining all throughout Infinity War as to why they're saying that he's on house arrest.
As soon as you finished watching the movie and we talked about it, it was, oh boy.
Yeah. Okay, we immediately got interrupted. Our pizza immediately came. 5 seconds into recording. So, continue.
So, as soon as you were done watching the movie, you immediately came to me and you're like, what is up with this timeline? It doesn't make any sense. Why do they keep on saying that he's on...
It doesn't make any sense.
For the record, I will state that I'm pretty sure Cap just doesn't know that he's off house arrest.
I don't know why nobody would know that he's off house arrest, especially somebody like Tony. And, like, their thing wasn't like, you know, well, we don't know, like, you know, who knows what's going on with Ant-Man. Like, it was, we would call him, but we can't because he's on house arrest.
Right.
You would think they would check. This is the fate of the world on the line.
True. And it's not like they have tons and tons of people they can call. So yeah. I will, like, when I first saw the movie, I didn't think of it as much of a problem, but, you know, talking to you, I get it. It's weird.
Or, like, it's hard for me to imagine that one of two things happened. Scott, during the entire 2 days that Infinity War was happening, did not see anything on the news about, you know, like the final stuff all happens in Wakanda, but there's so much that happens pre that, you know, it's the same problem with in the end credit scene of Infinity War, where it just seems like an entire, like, it has been a day and a half and people just kind of just don't care that there's an alien invasion happening still currently. Like, you can see the ships right there. But yeah, that's weird. The fact that, like, Scott would go 2 entire days without looking at the news or TV in any way.
See, like...
Or that, like, Luis and them wouldn't say anything to him about it.
I guess the question is, like, do they think it's still happening? Because there's the attack on New York. When they get the Time Stone, everyone leaves. And then they don't really do anything else on Earth until the Battle of Wakanda.
I mean, the ships keep showing back up.
I mean, true.
That's what I mean by current alien invasion. Like, regardless of what they know is happening or not, ships continuously for 2 days keep coming to and from Earth. Right. And nobody cares. That's so much weirder than, like, the Chitauri invasion, and, like, nobody cares about that afterwards, you know, either. Like, Chitauri invasion has had barely any consequences compared to, like, you know, like, 9/11 has had, you know, consequences for, like, everything ever, you know? You buy a shoe and you're probably gonna have consequences for 9/11, you know, in that fucking shoe.
Right.
Like, everything in, you know, America has been changed via 9/11, and that's so much smaller compared to the Chitauri invasion, which has had no real lasting consequences.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree with that exact statement. Like, people talk about it,
and
like,
it's had some lasting consequences, but it hasn't felt like an alien invasion.
Right. It's
the way people treat it in America, and especially in New York, feels like the way people would treat it if it happened in another country.
Yeah.
Like, it does not feel like something that happened in America. Like, America does not feel like it happened in America.
Yeah. Like, people do talk about it, but there isn't that, like, sense of trauma.
And even then, people don't really talk about it. Nobody really talks about it.
Right.
They might mention it. You know, like, superhero might say, like the Chitauri invasion, but very rarely do normal people talk about the Chitauri invasion.
Yeah, or the Battle of New York.
Yeah, or the Battle of New York, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, very little people just talk about the alien invasions in general, which is wild, because it's not like, you know, that stuff does not really get normalized, you know? It, like... Terrorism is not normalized in our world just because it's happened big time a couple times. Like, it's still a big deal every time and changes immensely, you know. But either way, that was more of a, you know, different complaint. But, like, yeah, it's just the only real suspension of disbelief I have to do with the MCU is the, like, alien invasion stuff. Most of the other stuff is a lot more willing to go with. The powers are all, you know, whatever. Right. But it's like, Doctor Strange as well. I just can't suspend my disbelief for Doctor Strange. I just can't. That's the one I just can't. I just have to accept every time he's on screen. But yeah. Was there any, like, real reason you were bringing this up?
I mostly just wanted to, like, talk about it because I think it'll, like, it might flavor this movie. It also might, you know, like, flavor, you know, talking about Infinity War and Endgame and stuff, you know, with the audience.
Sure.
Like, I just wanted to get that, you know, thing across.
I do think, I should, like, I've mentioned in passing the Chitauri thing a while, but I have not, like, mentioned it in a big, you know, grand way. So I guess this is a time to do that, sure. But, yeah, as far as, like, the weird timeline of this movie and everything, I've said my piece about it. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Do you have anything else to, like, say or refute it or whatever?
Not really. I think it's an interesting sized movie. In that, like, This
Is
comes.
that a pun?
Yeah, size.
I know, I never heard anybody say that sentence. It's an interestingly sized movie. I don't know what that means.
Like, in the sense that you have, like, your movies that affect, like, a family, you have your movies that affect a city, you have your movies that affect, like, entire planets.
Sure.
And in the last few, we've had, like, Black Panther affect all of Wakanda. It doesn't really affect the outside world that much, but there is, like, the climax is, these weapons could, cause a revolution around the entire world.
Yeah.
Then we go to Infinity War, then we do, like this is really, really high scale. And Ant-Man and the Wasp is a movie that feels low scale at first, and the scale it gets to is about, they're wrecking a city.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. The stakes and the scale is not as big as everything else, but I don't really see how that's relevant to the timeline thing. Like, I agree with you.
Sure.
But we can talk about that if you want.
I think what I mean in terms of the timeline is, it's a movie where, like, you can really fudge it either way, depending on whether you want to argue, like, someone should have noticed this, because it is, use of Hank Pym's technology. Hank Pym violated the Accords.
Oh, you mean like that the Avengers should have noticed that,
Yeah.
I mean, like, they definitely 100% should have, because it's, violating the Accords and everything. Like,
Yeah.
it is Ant-Man.
Or even if the Avengers didn't, for whatever reason, like, even if Cap's Avengers didn't know about it, at the very least, like, the government would have been like,
Rhodey
what the
would
hell's
have,
going on?
for sure.
Yeah.
Like, Rhodey would have had to have. And yeah, like when they were talking about that, like you would think they would have mentioned it at the very least when they were like, Vision's out there doing that now. Scott is blah blah blah. But they were like, Scott's on. Why does the government not know that, like, whether not Scott, but that Scott was the wrong word to use, but that them saying like, oh, Vision's over here. We saw someone in the Ant-Man costume, doing this. We don't know who it was, but
like. It would have honestly made more sense if they had just said, like, Scott's off the grid, or we can't contact Scott. And because you could still do this movie and have the question be like, okay, does he run off with Hank and the others?
Yeah.
And then the end would be like, oh no, he's, stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah, like there's stuff you could do there depending. Like they really could have moved. I think they should have just had Scott be stuck in the quantum realm pre-Infinity War. Like, you want to deal with the dusting and everything like that.
Yeah.
But maybe it should have been a longer thing. You can't make it last 2 days though.
Yeah.
But maybe have it established like he's been in the lab for 2 days with them and hasn't been able to leave. But like they're just on a roof in the middle of nowhere. So it's like, I don't know. It's not in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a city and everything. Like you'd think that. It's just weird. The choices they've made are weird. There is ways they could have done it. They didn't. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really weird, but I'm fine, moving past it. But the house arrest thing, though, that is, that's like the Doctor Strange thing where I cannot suspend my disbelief enough for that. I will try. I tried to the entire movie and I couldn't for the movie, but man, believing that they would put him on house arrest is the biggest plot hole in the entire MCU. Oh man, it's ridiculous.
I did look it up, by the way, to make sure. They did specifically put him on house arrest for 2 years and probation for 3 days.
That's wild. But, like, what's the deal with probation for 3 days?
Like, the probation is presumably also house arrest, but it is a, like...
What do you mean? How?
Because, like... You're right, I guess I don't know.
Why would it be?
Because I assumed that this was the end of his entire sentence when they took off his anklets, which would assume that he would have to have the anklet on during that, but no. So it would have been, that was the end of his 2 years. Yeah, you're right. Jimmy actually says that. So that was the end of his 2 years, and after that, he still should have been in his house for 3 days.
No, he should not have still been in his house for 3 days. He's just on do you not know what probation means?
Oh, yeah, I do. Sorry, I forgot.
That's not, that's not it. Anyway, I am totally, against the police and prison and anything like that, but 3 days probation is so funny. That's so weird. Like, what are they going to do in 3 days? What is the point of that? Anyway, house arrest, stupid, dumb idea. I don't know who is the writer that thought this was a good idea, but I want them fired. Now, let's talk about, the scale of the movie and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like... I do appreciate that this is just, ultimately, there does, throughout the movie, I at least started to question, like, is this worth it? Like,
Mhm.
I, as a person, would be doing all the stuff they're doing
Sure.
to get back Janet, whoever my Janet would be.
Right.
I say, like, it wouldn't be you, but I mean, like,
Aw.
whether it be a friend or a parent,
Yeah.
whatever, if it's
Yeah.
someone that's super important to me, of course I'd be doing all the shit they're doing to get them back into the match.
Mhm.
But, it's, I would do that, but looking at it objectively, quote unquote, it's like, man, they have almost certainly injured and possibly killed a bunch of people in the process of all this. Whereas, like, there is a much easier solution to this entire movie, which is they could have just gone along with the guy with the I can't remember his name, but the like super tanned dude.
Oh, right.
Looks like he's in like a tanning booth all the time.
Sunny Birch.
Yeah, Sunny Birch.
Mhm.
But yeah, they could have just said like, sure, we'll go along with you. We just got to do this thing real quick.
I mean, that would eliminate one problem, but then they still have the ghost thing.
Sure. That is a good point.
Like-
but like that would have eliminated a lot of the big problem, because a lot of the points where they were at a point where they were like, it would have been fine for them, even with Ghost. Shit got more fucked up because of, like, Ghost only found them because of Sonny Birch and everything.
Right.
So it's like, if, Sonny Birch wasn't a problem, this movie wouldn't have been as big of a problem.
Yeah.
Which is not like a knock on the movie or anything. I just think it's like it's interesting, like, when like the Spider-Man movie. I like the movies where I start out the movie going like, of course this character's in the right. They're one of the better heroes out there that we have, even.
Right.
Like, I'm rooting for them, and then throughout the movie going like, oh, like. And it's a character thing where I don't expect them to go, hey guys, I think we should cut our losses and at this point stop trying to save Janet. Like,
Right.
no one's going to stop halfway through. So it is like the point where you're not going to see it happen. You only see it in retrospect when it's like them on like the highway, or not the highway, it's just the roads and everything. At that point is when you go, oh, maybe this is getting a bit too bad for what we're trying to do here.
Like, it is the Civil War thing of, like, should there be some oversight, or, like, should there be do they have to do this by themselves, or should there be someone that they can call and say, like, hey, we need some help?
Yeah, but even that, if they call for more help, it'll probably just get worse.
Yeah.
Like, it is the classic superhero problem of, like, they do an interesting thing like, okay, Hulk versus Abomination, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if Hulk does not stop the Abomination is going to destroy all of Harlem.
Right.
Versus, like, Spider-Man does not stop the Vulture. It's not like the destruction that is happening is going to happen because the Vulture's doing it. Destruction is only happening because Spider-Man's trying to stop the Vulture.
Right.
Or, like this, the destruction is only happening to the city because they're trying to, get away from them, or, steal something back, or whatever. And it's like, I want them to do that thing, but it's a nice moral grayness that you can, add without it being, like, too, like, come on,
like, there's a price to be paid, and our heroes are paying the price that they can, but they're making a lot of other people pay another price.
Yeah.
And the question is, like, is that okay?
It's very similar to the Crossbone thing with Wanda, where it's like, there's so much stuff you can do with superheroes where they're destroying stuff, and, like, then you go, like, look at you destroying all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but that's because you wrote it that way. Whereas, like, stuff like the Wanda thing, or like this, where it's like, or like Black Panther when they're going through the city and stuff, where it's not their fault,
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's written just for them to be like, oh, I'm gonna punch this guy through a building for no reason.
Yeah.
They are like, I'm just trying to get it away, and I did the best I could, and I think I appreciate the differences there.
Yeah. And talking about scale in a slightly different way, I also do appreciate the problems that are, like, attacking our protagonists, because, like, you have the FBI, then you have Sunny Birch, then you have Ghost, and
So many different types of factions,
and because there's so many factions, it also means that none of them have to be like the super big bad, I'm going to attack you specifically faction. Like, none of them have to have that much weight on them. They all add their own problems, and they all create, like, this much bigger problem none of them, like, wants to create.
It was wild when they were doing, like, the list thing, and Scott said, we gotta fight Ghost. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess we do gotta fight Ghost. I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, this was a movie where I went 2/3 through the movie not thinking about the fact that there was gonna be a final fight.
Right.
Like, I was just like, going through the movie. I really appreciate that. It wasn't like so obvious of like a, you know, like we're gonna fight Ghost sort of thing. And even then, we didn't really fight Ghost that much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skirmishes with Ghost, but there's not like a when he said that, I was expecting like, oh, okay, we're probably gonna get like a big, you know, final Ghost fight then.
Yeah, like the Ant-Man versus Yellow Jacket fight.
Yeah, but yeah, I was actually glad that we didn't. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there is no like big final fight.
Yeah.
You know, it's just skirmishes throughout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it really like.
And the most threatening one is Sonny more than Ghost, honestly.
Yeah, like they do a really good job of making Sonny like he's in this nice gray area of he is a goofy villain, he's a little incompetent, but at the same time he is way more competent than you'd expect. Like there's over the course of the movie he keeps on winning or he keeps on coming out ahead, and the question is like we know he's not gonna like kill Ant-Man or anything, that's not what he wants, but like is he going to like take the lab at some point? Are they going to be stranded? Like that could feasibly happen and it wouldn't break the movie.
Yeah,
like he can win.
He's perfect for a movie with this kind of stakes.
Yeah.
And like also I like that they don't make him like super comedic either. He's very subtly comedic. Like it is what is that actor's name?
The actor is oh boy, I just had him.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah, Walton Goggins.
Yeah, I mean he is just like he is so typecast into that like you know you just look at him and laugh. Like he just has that. He is a really good actor, but he's so sun like tanned, super baked, and he just looks like a Lay's potato chip.
Yeah.
And with the extremely southern accent that was like very like southern drawl accent as well.
Yeah.
It's so much better. As soon as I saw him, I was ready for it to be hilarious, and as soon as I heard him speak, it was like icing on the cake. And all of his guys are really, really funny too. Like the Truth Serum, not all of his guys, just the Truth Serum guy.
Yeah, he has two other guys, and they're kind of there.
Yeah, they're just kind of there. But like, yeah, I just appreciate that faction so much, and I cannot say enough how much I appreciate it.
This movie
also we didn't talk about like the FBI, yes, but more specifically we have like the Sonny's like FBI guy, and then we have Woo, like the Jimmy Woo, like the two very different, like the one that is like I don't want to say competent because he is also one of the only people in the entire movie scene that is barely able to lift up the building. He is just so insanely weak.
Yeah.
He can't even pick up a milk carton. But like we have that guy who is like, you know, doing it for purposefully evil, you know, means and all that, whereas Jimmy Woo is just the most incompetent dumbass stupid fucking detective ever. Jimmy's role was great in the movie as well.
Yeah.
It was at times it was a little bit like felt like I was watching a like family movie with like Arnold Schwarzenegger as a main character.
Sure. That
sort of like family movie.
Yeah.
It just felt like a little bit weird at times. I feel like 9 out of 10 times he was great. 1 out of 10 times it was like this is a little bit like too, you know, family movie gag, you know.
Fair enough.
But yeah. Also, speaking of the stakes being so low and being so like we're just saving one person and you know everybody's trying to stop us or do other means with it and everything.
Yeah.
Did see the trailers.
Oh yeah.
I love that in the trailers they say both Ghost wants to destroy the world or take over the world, and then they are going to save the world.
Oh yeah. There's a bunch of different versions of that list scene. They're all very subtle, but the one that stands out the most is the one where he's like, yeah, number 2, save the world.
Yeah. I love the, like, I heard, it was, I believe Louis like talking about like, oh, I heard what happened to you. Well, somebody came, stole your stuff. Now you got to stop Ghosts trying to take over the world. And it's like, wait, who did you hear that from? Also, in the movie when Louis says that, who did he hear that from?
I believe he was just talking about Ghost in general.
But I mean, like, that weirded me out. And we cut from them dealing with that scene to them going to Lewis and them, and Lewis being like, oh, I heard what just happened to you guys. I have to imagine that they just told him, and then he's telling them what they just told him.
Oh, I didn't take it like that. I took it as, like, she's been stealing other stuff. And that's what they heard about.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what else they'd be stealing, to be fair.
But then, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think so. I'd have to rewatch that scene, but I don't think that's how he said it. Pretty sure he said, Ghost attacked you guys. Or you guys got attacked by a ghost thing, or whatever he said. Either way,
Yeah, I will say that is important because, like, a big part of Ant-Man and the Wasp coming out was the idea of, like, we did Infinity War. We're all pretty shell-shocked by that. We know Ant-Man wasn't there. We, like, the house arrest line was, like, no one really thought about it as house arrest. It was like, okay, he's doing something else. So the question was, like, what is happening? Like, what is Ant-Man and the Wasp about? And so, like, the lines of Ghost is trying to take over the world were, like, they felt very serious from a, like, pre-watching the movie thing. It was a, like, I guess this is also world stakes. But how?
Yeah, and now it really just does feel like Ant-Man was just fucking around, the water boy's dying. It's really like Ant-Man's fun adventure while everybody dies. It's he is never gonna live this one down. I don't know how you live down not being in Infinity War.
I do really like, by the way, that like with all those factions together, it feels very Spider-Man-esque almost, in that a lot of comic book Spider-Man arcs, usually the movies don't do this because it's a movie, but a lot of comic arcs are like 5 different problems all overlapping at the same time.
Yeah.
And this gave me that same energy in a way that before this movie, I didn't think the MCU could really do that. Like, even Homecoming kind of does it a bit, but it is very layered. Whereas this is like, you know, in the same scene, like, we'll forget about the FBI, and then the FBI will show up. Or, like, when Hank shrinks down the building, and the armed militia is there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, right! I forgot this man was a criminal. He would be able to hire people with guns.
Yeah, like, when I said in Infinity War, I think they should have just had Spider-Man be on the ground and replaced every scene with Spider-Man with Ant-Man. I'm realizing that's because Scott is my Peter Parker. I stan a Scott Peter Parker.
Oh,
but no,
boy.
everything I want out of Spider-Man is done in Scott.
Okay.
There's like you just said, everything happening at once, feeling like a very like neighborhood, you know, like a very like low level sort of thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's sort of disrespecting him, even though, you know, he is like being extremely altruistic and helping people and everything like that. But just because he's annoying, they disrespect him.
Right.
Having the like very youthfulness to him, the very like just fucking like everything we saw him doing in his house.
Yeah.
You know? Just like being so kiddish and everything like that. Everything with his daughter is honestly something that I've never seen from Spider-Man, but something I would want from Spider-Man.
Okay.
That feels like what I imagine Peter as a dad would be like.
Right.
You know? And I'm sure there, you know, there might be like some like what if thing in the comics where Peter is like a father thing. I don't know how that would be, but based off of what I would imagine Peter Parker as like a father figure to be is very similar to Scott.
Okay.
And so I think when you were saying like all the things going on in my like mind, I was picturing if instead of it being house arrest, it being I have to go to my daughter's whatever. And like I think that is what I want out of Spider-Man. True, I think my perfect Spider-Man is not a relationship or high school. I have to do this thing, but a more adult and like a kid thing. Like instead of like, oh, I promised Mary Jane I was going to do this. I promised my daughter I was going to do this, but now I gotta, you know, blah 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 blah. I think it's also the same thing with like Daredevil, where it's like, you know, I like I have to, you know, do superhero stuff and I have to do this other thing, but I only like it when it's not like relationship focused. Right. I'm just not really into the relationship stuff unless the person knows that they are like you know, the superhero. Like I think that's why Daredevil I've started to like a little bit more, and like Daredevil has more the like, you know, clarifying, like Matt does want to do, you know, superhero stuff more than he wants to do like lawyer stuff, like forget the relationship stuff.
Right.
Like that is very clear, you know, he doesn't really like being a lawyer as much as he likes being, you know, a superhero.
Yeah.
And like that sort of like more adult sort of stuff is what I like, rather than the like high school Peter Parker stuff. And so, yeah, I do think Scott Lang is my perfect Peter Parker. Just if he actually was Spider-Man now.
Right.
That's what I really want. Like, yeah, the powers are less cool and everything, but it's got a similar suit as well, too, where, you know, he puts on a suit and you don't see his face.
There's definitely some comic stuff that would interest you, but let's not do that now.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, like, I will say, that is something people have really wanted. Like, in the same way that, you know, teens really like Teenage Spider-Man, a lot of people have been like, you know, we understand why Marvel wants to set him back, and why, like, even though he's long out of high school, a lot of comics are like, well, we have to make him suck, though.
Yeah.
We gotta, take his $1 million away and punch him in the face and give his aunt cancer.
It's weird because they have Miles now, who is the teen.
Yeah.
Like, you have another teen now, so let Peter be old.
Yeah. I think, like, they're starting to explore that.
Yeah. But it's just wild that it's taken so long.
Yeah. Because it is, like, of all the big Avengers, or, there's, like, big Marvel heroes, it's like, Spidey is the one I want to see as a dad the most, legitimately, because it feels like it would be very fun to see that. It's not just a wholesome thing, it is a, like, I think it would be fun to see him struggle, and then to see him, ultimately, provide for his kid, and, be a good dad.
Yeah, and I think we're missing a lot of that in the MCU in general, because they don't really act like adults. Like, there's not like adult problems they have. They just sort of like do superhero stuff and that's it.
Right.
And they have like relationships sort of stuff and that's it. And they don't really do anything. Like Tony does not really have much adult problems.
Yeah.
He had like adult problems in the Iron Man movies, but like since the Iron Man movies, he hasn't really had any adult problems that he's had to focus.
Yeah.
It's all been superhero problems that he's had to focus.
Like, a lot of the core heroes in the MCU have a lot of privilege.
Yeah.
We talked about that a lot during Age of Ultron, and I think that is it's exciting from a writing perspective, because it means, like, you don't have to worry about, like, who pays Iron Man's taxes. He's rich.
Yeah. It allowed the MCU to start really quickly because, all the characters don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and it's why a lot of the TV shows feature people who are more realistic and who, have more struggles.
Yeah,
because,
but even then you do stuff like Matt lives in the, like, nicest fucking building ever, and they're able to acknowledge it in a very realistic, in-universe way.
Yeah.
But it's still that, like, but we know if you watch the show, they want to see them in a really nice building for some reason. But yeah, like, they still have to do that shit.
Yeah. I also wanted to say, do you have anything else to say about, like, the stakes, or should we move on?
Yeah, I think I'm good with the stakes.
Okay. I wanted to move on to the intro, which is, like, it is not the intro that the movie was supposed to come out with.
Okay.
When the movie was, like, basically completely done and they were, like, test screening it, they did an alternate opening. Or, like, the original opening was supposed to be still the mission, but it wasn't, like, it was supposed to be a lot longer. And specifically, they did a bunch of shooting in South America.
Okay.
So it was going to be more of a, like, we're going to learn who Hank and Janet were going after. We're going to, like, see them launch the missile.
Yeah.
Like, in the trailers that you watched, there is a scene where you see, like, Hank and Janet in their old Ant-Man outfits, just fighting some, like, mafia people or something.
Oh, I don't think I saw that trailer then.
I saw you watch it.
Oh, okay. Didn't even notice it.
But yeah, like, they're just in the building punching some guys.
Okay, I probably just thought that was Scott and Hope.
But yeah, like, it was supposed to be a really long thing like that, and it didn't really tie into the plot of the movie at all. It was just a, like, kind of fan servicey thing.
Yeah, I would like that though.
Like, parts of it date back to, like, Simon Pegg's original Ant-Man, where he also wanted to start off in South America with, a big ol' heist.
Yeah.
So,
I think you could have done. I think you could have worked in the plot with Bill.
Yeah.
They could have done something. Like, they didn't, obviously, but they could have. If they wanted to keep that, they should have worked in Bill.
It was possibly salvageable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't believe any of that footage has come out, like, not even as deleted scenes.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, 'cause it's probably not finished in any way.
Yeah. But, like, that's why the opening of this movie is very typical for a movie in general. Like,
Yeah.
it is, like, they had to do reshoots with Hank and Hope, where they're just talking to each other in a room, and then they interspliced, like, the end of that whole sequence with the actual missile. And I like it in a sense because it is different and because it is a, like, it's a very laser focused, like, this is what the movie is about.
And it makes it very, this is the most MCU movie you can just watch by itself and not watch anything else.
I do think, like, I don't know this for sure, that does give me the vibe of, we know a lot of people are going to watch Infinity War and then want to know what is next, so they're going to watch this movie without watching the original Ant-Man.
That is 100% what I thought. Like, I was like, we're doing a hell of a lot of exposition here, but I get it. It's the movie right after Infinity War, of course. Like, Captain Marvel is probably not going to be the opposite, where that's why they did a very, I assume, standalone movie afterwards. I have no idea. We'll see. But I assume that's what they did.
Okay.
Also, as a way to introduce their Deus Machina that's going to save the day in game, I assume.
Who knows?
That's the only thing I can think of. Alright, but So yeah, let's talk about Casey is the girl's name, right?
Oh, you mean Cassie?
Cassie. Not
Yeah.
Casey. Cassie. Yeah, I didn't really give a shit about her in the first movie. I thought his whole family in the first movie was very, what's a way to say this other than badly written? It's just dumbly written. Like, they were so cheesy. It was so over the toply, like, characterized and tropey and so like trying, like, it felt like their entire personalities were to service Scott to make Scott look better.
Sure.
You know, and I think this movie did a lot better job with Cassie being, you know, a lot more natural and not feeling like her entire character is to prop up Scott, and like it felt more like she was his kid, and it was nice and cute, this movie, and I liked it this movie.
All right.
And I really did not like it in the last movie.
Ah.
And they just, boy, have no plans whatsoever to do with the stepdad. Like, he's just there. He's a part of the police, and that was irrelevant this entire movie.
Oh, yeah. The main thing that I've heard repeatedly is that the main thing they wanted to do with Jim the stepdad was just, we want to do a stepdad who isn't an asshole, but he is still.
Yes.
I mean he's a cop.
Yeah, I mean, and in the first movie he was a pretty big asshole. I mean, not a pretty big asshole, but I mean he was just an asshole. I mean, I think he's an asshole because he's so like nice with Scott.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, Scott's not a great dad. And it's like, if you're trying to be the stepdad and you're fine with this, then I don't think you're gonna be. We haven't seen him be a dad at all, but
Sure.
it makes me think he's got to be a pretty shitty stepdad.
I mean, I do think this is a consequence of the family being way more of a like plot device in the first movie.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with him in the first movie because he does balance out Maggie, you know, his wife now.
Still don't like wife. The wife and Jim,
Yeah.
both of them, they're both just so like, you know, we just have to have characters that are gonna let Scott do whatever the hell he wants to do and let him have his daughter all the time. That's so weird. I mean, like, the fact they're fine with everything that Scott's done across both movies and Civil War and everything, and still like, yeah, you can still have the Cassie for the weekends.
He's a nice guy.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I mean, I am a little surprised that Maggie flipped so much from like a because you have been in jail and you haven't been paying your child supports. I'm not going to let you, not even like, you know, take your daughter. I'm not going to let you attend her birthday party.
Yeah.
And she really did a flip over to, like, you know,
You can
the FBI.
break out of maximum security prison
Yeah.
and violate a government contract, and I'm gonna be like, hey, yeah, it's fine.
When the FBI comes in, we will defend you.
Yeah, that is crazy to me. Like, whether, you know, she's on his side or not, with how she was in the first movie, I'm surprised that she wouldn't be like, we don't want to have anything to do with you. You're crazy.
Right.
I do like that. I think the stakes for, or rather, like, the consequences that happened, like Hank and Hope and everything, that all makes sense. That felt
Sure.
natural. That felt real. Scott stuff didn't, but that stuff felt real.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty big. They went from we're rich to we are just fugitives on the run.
Yeah. It felt like, yeah, that's how it should be. That's what Scott should have been like, basically. I know it would have been a rough thing to do and
Yeah.
everything, but, like, you know,
I mean-
they wrote themselves into a corner in which, like, they just couldn't do anything that would make sense.
I mean, honestly, even then, they could have just had Scott also be a fugitive. And they could have said, you know, his family is cool with him, you know, sneaking in to hang out with Cassie. But, you know, he's gone full-time superhero. He just, you know, hides in the shadows and punches bad guys.
Yeah, I just can't picture it for Scott. And also, like, the whole business thing they wanted to do.
Right. It's,
Like, yeah. I really thought the business thing was going to be a big twist in the movie. Like, I kept waiting for it. I'm like, this is the thing. We're going to, like, when this happens, it's going to be some big, you know, changing thing.
Okay.
It's somebody that, you know, not it's somebody, but, like, or, like, they might be setting. I was like, I don't know, it just felt like they mentioned it so much, and it was so, like, felt like one of the big things that was, like, being juggled around that had to be done. And then they just didn't do it. That was so crazy to me.
really?
Yeah, that, like, because it didn't, I guess to me it just didn't feel like, I don't know. That felt like we were going somewhere with it so much, and it just
Okay.
didn't go anywhere. It just like worked itself out in the end magically. Not magically, we know. Just
Yeah.
like because of the actions of the movie. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like anything they did. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not really a fan of stuff where stuff works out for the characters just coincidentally.
Sure. Fair.
You know, like. It felt like it was going to be one of those things where Scott was really going to have to choose what he was doing and everything, and
Right.
like, or I wanted to see like them, Luis and the gang like really pull through, and they managed to like like they did the same thing as last movie where like they helped in that way. But I thought we were going to do a thing like where they had to pull through in this business meeting after all this crazy shit's
Right.
going on and everything, and like that would have been a very hilarious scene as well.
Yeah.
Just to see them trying to like talk to this guy and do this deal while trying to keep the secrets of everything.
Yeah.
Because we know them and they would not be able to do that, even without the truth serum going through them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely more they could have done there.
Yeah.
I was fine with it when I saw it because I didn't really expect it to be a big thing. I thought it was more of a payoff from the first movie, where the first movie was so focused on, like, ex-cons can't get jobs.
Yeah.
And this was the, like, they made their own job.
But I mean, it was also a lot of like, Scott, come on, we need your help. Like, you're being, like, you're not helping us with this thing that is because of you.
Right.
And then, like, Scott didn't help in any way through any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Because, yeah, he never did actually change the plans, right?
no, because they never like go to him or anything.
Mhm.
And yeah, like then because they don't like Luis and them don't pull through, or Luis and them don't pull through on their own. It's just so because the ex-cons can get jobs actually doesn't really work as a message when it's just coincidentally they got
Right.
their jobs were able to stay afloat.
Yeah, it was a very loose karmic thing of they did the right thing, and because of that, like, they didn't get the win even. It's just, they still have the thing that they can do later. It didn't ruin them.
Yeah. So, where do we want to move on from here? I feel like I was talking about something and then
We initially started talking about Cassie, and I do still have more to talk about Cassie.
Okay, yeah, let's go back.
So, I really do like that she is more proactive than the first movie. Like, I think it is a very typical hero thing to have the little girl or the, like, wife or the, friend who, like, they're the ones saying, you can't do this, you can't be a hero.
Yeah.
And the main character has to go like, no, but I must. I really like that. In the first movie, Cassie was more of a tool. It was more of a, like, I have this cute daughter, and if I do this thing, I'm going to mess up her life.
Yeah.
And Scott learned his lesson there to an extent, but now Cassie's the one pushing. Now Cassie's the one saying, like, I don't care. Like, it isn't dumb to do good things. Like, it isn't dumb to help people.
Yeah. I really, I mean, I've already said my piece. I'm not sure if I have anything else to say.
Yeah,
I really like her role in this movie.
I really like that it is a, like, it's not ambiguous, but it is a, like, she is getting better at learning how to do heists. Like, she's learning a lot of stuff that may or may not be what Scott wants her to do in the future. But she is very into it, and, like, she is her father's daughter.
Yeah.
Like, she does catch on very quickly when Scott's, like, does the call and he, fakes being sick. Like, Cassie's the one who, when the FBI comes in, she's the one who immediately says he's sick, because she knows that he remembers that, and then he'll, if he is going to sneak in, he'll also fake being sick.
Yeah.
Like, it's so perfect. They have such powerful chemistry as father and daughter.
It's absolutely perfect, and like, yeah, he's, even if she doesn't use these skills for heisting in the future and stuff like that, like, it is just good to know these skills in general. You should be know how to manipulate people, how to steal, and how to do all that kind of shit. Whether you're going to use it or not, it's good to have in the back of your pocket.
They're survival skills,
and it's good to know if somebody's doing it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
do you think that, like, it is in a joking sense, but Cassie does repeatedly say, like, she wants to also, like, be Ant-Man's partner. She wants to, get into that kind of thing. Do you think the movies are ever going to go in that direction, or do you think that's more of a just, like, ha ha ha?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I would like to see many years from now that be the case, but, I don't know if that would be, who knows how long the MCU is going to last as the way it is. Like,
Sure.
with what they're doing with the TV shows and everything now, it's, who knows what the MCU is going to be.
Right.
Like, if it's going to be so consistent, if it's going to be more, who knows. So, like, I would like to see them do something like that. Not like a partner, but like a, guy in the chair, girl in the chair sort of situation.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Like, just a not physical helper, but yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Or even I could see her just getting a job at whatever their business is. I don't remember what it's called.
It's called ex-cons. Like ex-cons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like, she could be a secretary or just, unpaid child labor for a bit.
I mean, I meant when she gets older. Not like right now.
Not right now. She's got to pull her weight. They have the tiny desk. That could be hers.
No.
So, let's talk about Hank and Hope. Like,
Sure.
we touched on them very vaguely. They're, they're not in the best place at the start of the movie. They kind of lost everything because of Scott.
Yeah. I do like there's so much more closer to this movie because of that, though. Like, last movie, it was Hope and Hank being a lot of, like, butting heads and, like, I want to do this, but you won't let me do this, blah, blah. Whereas this movie, they never had to talk. They were in sync. Like, they knew what each other was going to do at all times. They trusted each other fully. It was very, like, satisfying just to see the teamwork at play there.
Yeah.
And just the teamwork between all three of them at play. Like, whenever, they did anything, really. Like, it was great. And, again, the shade being thrown at Scott. I love seeing her flying with the wings and the blasters for the first time. And you're like, oh, so you didn't have that technology for me, right? Oh, no, I did.
Yeah, I really like the interplay between Scott and Hank.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so fun to watch.
And also, Hank's personality and Scott's personality just clash so much. It's so, like, the Altoid container is the best example of it. He could so easily say, that's not Altoids, but he won't.
Yeah.
He will just constantly go, no, Scott, no. And Scott's just gonna keep trying every time, even though he knows he's not gonna let him.
I did find it very endearing that Hank genuinely likes the idea of just wearing a hat and glasses, because when they bust him out of the police station, he's so happy when he sees the hat and glasses. He's like, oh yeah, this is it. I love it. I'm on board.
He loves it. I mean, it's a good disguise. He immediately looks like Stan Lee.
Yeah, I think the first movie, the first movie had to show Hank in more of a, like, kind of weird, mysterious-ish role, like, because he was a recluse. Yeah. And they had to sideline Janet because, she's not supposed to be Ant-Man, even though the movie repeatedly shows, like, yeah, she has all the capabilities. She could do this heist.
Oh, you mean Hope?
Hope, yeah, sorry. Yeah. And so it was very satisfying seeing them without any, like, filters on them. And both of them were, like, because they also, like, now they don't have to pay rent or anything. Yeah. Like, they have one solid thing, which is just, we're going to bring back Janet. Like, it is seeing both of them at their absolute peak right now, doing everything they can. And it's so exhilarating.
And they're extremely somber about everything because, like, what they're doing. So, like, they don't have any time for any bullshit. At the same time, though, I do love, like, talking about their personalities and everything. I love that Hope is, like, a very adrenaline junkie, it seems like. Like, Scott, especially when he's fighting, is a lot of doing what is necessary, like, doing, like, the quickest, thing. He's not, like, very flashy. He's just like, whatever's gonna get me to punch him the quickest.
Yeah.
Or whatever's the close, or the quickest, like, line to them. And a lot of, like, freaking out during the fight, dodging stuff, blah, blah. Hope felt like a lot of putting herself in danger.
Yeah.
And especially when they were in the car. Like, when they're in the car, she does a lot, like, especially when she was driving Scott for the first time, she did so much, like, purposefully driving through dangerous situations and everything. Like, she is a big adrenaline junkie, and I can see why, considering she's gone for so long with Hank not letting her do this stuff. She's really letting out a lot of it whenever, and there's a lot of angst just coming out always with Hope. I'm glad they changed the wig. Glad they goddamn changed her hairstyle.
I find it really interesting that, like, Ant-Man, like, because Ant-Man doesn't have wings, there is a, like, pretty good reason for him to, like, grow and shrink in order to get closer to people, or in order to, like, change the circumstances of the fights.
Yeah.
Whereas Hope doesn't really need to as much because she has the wings, and yet she does it more.
Yeah. Like that's what I mean by, like, the adrenaline junkie thing.
Yeah, like, the ultimate, isekai smart brain move would be stay always small, use the wings, and just, do the big human-sized punches all the time. Yeah. But she likes being able to, like, flip people, or, like, do stuff like that.
Yeah, and, like, there is scenarios which make it, okay, well, you wouldn't want to be small, like fire, or, like, really heat-based stuff, you know?
Mhm.
Because it's going to be so much hotter if you're smaller.
Yeah.
So, like, that sort of stuff, you know, makes sense. They don't do anything like that. But, like,
Mhm.
just saying, like, it's not like a sort of thing where you would always be
yeah.
small, but in this circumstance, because I also said the same thing in my reaction.
Sure.
But what I mean is, of course, in this circumstance, you should always be small. There's no reason in this fight why they should have gotten big. Obviously, to make it look cool, you got to. But
I think, honestly, and this movie ties into this a lot, or leans into it, I should say, car chases are a much better use of, like, growing and shrinking, because, like, inherently, if you are driving and you are tiny, you aren't moving as far.
yeah.
So it is this, like, you know...
Or like Scott. Scott getting big makes sense.
Yeah.
Because she has the wings, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Scott doing a, let me get big so I can just, you know, cross a huge distance really fast. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I also really appreciate that, like, a lot of the shrinking is used to, like, you know, dodge moves and stuff, and it feels like, you know, a form of intangibility, and, like, it is the, like, I'm fighting you, but you can't hit me when I do this thing. And
Like with the ghost fight, like, whenever they're fighting, it is so cool because it does feel like they're just disappearing as well.
Yeah, it is, like, the same sort of, you know, tactics, but two very different applications of them.
Ah, they have similar types of stands.
Ah. I really appreciate that because, you know, no one, at this point, no one really wants to see an MCU movie where the hero and the villain have the same ability.
Yeah.
It's kind of overplayed, and this is a really cool way to do something similar without it being the same at all.
You say that, we literally did exactly that to the most exact way you could in Black Panther. Like,
I mean,
they could not have been any more. They're fighting with the same powers.
I mean, like, people love Black Panther, but that whole scene down with the trains is, like, people like that part the least out of anything in the movie.
That's because the CGI is wonky.
It's CGI, and also it is because, like, their ability, like, it's not that interesting, because also, like, the kinetic blasts, you know, get toned down a lot more down there as well.
I do agree. I was just joking, like you're saying, like, the MCU doesn't want to do that anymore, and I'm like, really? The MCU doesn't want to do that anymore.
Let me course correct. People don't want to see that very much anymore. The MCU is still going to do it. In Phase 4, they're still going to do the, hey, we've got the Eternals, we also have the Reverse Eternals, and they have the same powers, and they're going to kill all the Reverse Eternals at the end of the movie.
They're all a dark mirror.
Although, in this movie, like, we have, you know, two villains, and they're just on the run. Like, they were not killed at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and they're actively helping Ghost as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, are they on the run?
They are. I mean, that's what they say at the very end.
Did they? Who said that? Do you remember what character said that?
Yes, I do. It was, Bill. Like, when Bill was talking to Ghost.
Okay. But, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that we're going to have to be on the run? Is that what he said? Something like that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I thought you meant, like, yeah, they are on the run from the cops and the FBI and everything, but not, like Ant-Man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Wasp, Hank, Bill, and Hope, and Ghost are all one group now.
Yeah.
I believe. I mean, Bill was not around during this thing here up on the roof or anything.
Yeah.
Neither was Ghost, which you would think, you know, you would just get Ghost right there because you're going to bring the heal juice right to her. But, you know, maybe she has to, like, stay in the tank thing or something.
Sure.
Or, like, maybe Janet is. Well, no, because Janet was right there, so I don't know where she was, but doesn't matter.
They're on the run.
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, I just want to bring that up as a, like, they are still alive, and they are, like, potentially new protagonists as well.
Well, I don't know about they are still alive.
They might be.
They might be still alive.
I mean, they have a 50% chance of still being alive. That's not the worst odds.
Like, Bill, Hope, and Ghost, all three don't know if they're alive or dead. Like, Hope was on the rooftop, but we didn't see if she had dusted or not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm assuming Hope is not going to be, because I assume that's how they're going to get Scott out.
I mean, but why wouldn't... She was on the roof. Why would she not respond when, you know, when Scott is screaming, hey guys, get me back out?
Yeah.
I feel like she had to have dusted. There's
because
no way.
she would have run over to the dust and went like, what the hell? You
My
know?
parents are dust.
Because I was thinking, like, she wouldn't respond to Scott immediately because she is, like, you know, like, what the fuck is happening, blah, blah, blah. But we would have definitely seen... We spend such a you know, such a long time on that camera shot going, like, panning from the dust to the, like, speaker thing. So, like, yeah, Hope had to have got dusted.
Yeah.
She had to. So, Bill and Ghost maybe, you know, maybe then Ghost is just going to show up and be like, hey, I'm an Avenger now, and by Avenger I mean I'm in an Avenger movie. And that seems to be what Avenger means now. When people colloquially talk about the Avengers, I'm realizing they just mean they were in an Avengers movie. Because the word Avengers as like a team means so little now.
Yeah.
It's like two people. It's like it's Tony and Rhodey, and that's it. Who else is in the Avengers?
Officially, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
There's nobody else. Vision was, and he left. And he's dead.
Hawkeye's on house arrest.
Hawkeye's on house. Well, Hawkeye also.
Hawkeye wasn't actually an Avenger.
Yeah. They don't got anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Am I forgetting anybody? No, because also Romanoff like left as well.
Yeah.
So all the people that were like they didn't stick with Tony's side just left eventually anyway.
Right.
And even Rhodey is like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. It's just Tony.
Mm-hmm. Tony
is literally the only person at this point who is still like the Accords were a good idea.
He's the last Avenger.
Oh my god.
That's why Endgame is just Tony. No one else shows up in it, sorry.
It is really funny that it is named Avengers Endgame when there is one Avenger in it. Literally one. I mean, I guess you could call Rhodey. I guess Rhodey still is.
I mean,
he doesn't like it, but he still is.
Fair.
So, now what are we talking about? Do you have anything else you want to say about like Hope and Hank, like specifically about their characters?
Not really. Like, what we get from them in this movie is pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about them, of course, throughout everything. I mean, like, specifically about them. I think, personalities.
I think I'm good right now.
Yeah. I just like how much more personality they had this movie. You know?
Yeah.
Last movie, they were kind of tropey. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I liked them, but they were definitely much tropier than they were in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Janet's.
Sure, let's talk about Janet. Janet has a cool design. She is an interesting character. Like, clearly she has, like, powers that they're going to do something with going forward.
She adapted and evolved.
Is she evolved?
Mm-hmm. You got accepted, so they said it.
Now, okay.
Yes.
What is your opinion?
Uh-huh.
When they're playing the sad music and they're crying and it's a reunion and everything, am I supposed to be laughing?
I don't think so.
When they're like, oh my god, Janet is back and we're like in Scott's body and this is such a nice reunion and we're gonna be able to get her back, am I supposed to be belly laughing at how insane and funny this is?
Okay, well, when she is in Scott's body, I do think it is supposed to be like, I think that is legitimately a scene that is meant to be a Rorschach test for the audience. It is a, like, we know this is funny. We're not going to frame this as not funny, but like
we're not going to frame it as funny either.
We're hoping that you will be touched, but at the same time, you will also think it's funny. It's because, like, in my personal viewing of it, I thought it was really funny when he started, like, channeling Janet.
Yeah.
And then by the end, I stopped thinking of him as Scott. Like,
it was specifically whenever Janet says any word that sounds slightly sciencey, I laugh. Like, him channeling Janet was originally to me like, oh, okay, he's channeling Janet. Okay, this is actually happening. And then I was like, okay, this is kind of funny the way he's acting. And then once they do the let me put in these, you know, like coordinates or like whatever. As soon as that started happening, I could not stop like laughing, like not chuckling, but laughing. It was just, it's so funny. Anytime they try and do any science thing at all in this movie. Like, last movie was so nothing compared to the jargon in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, they had the one-liners, like, oh, do you guys put quantum in front of everything? But, like, that's not the funny parts. Like, every time they say quantum whatever, I understand what they're saying, because they usually just say, quantum, normal thing.
Right.
But then, throughout the rest of the movie, they do the, you know, mass spectrometer, the particle, what's the Back to the Future one?
The Back to the Future one?
The classic jargon thing from Back to the Future.
1.21 gigawatts?
Yes, gigawatts is what I was thinking of. Or there's so many stuff like that I just, I've never seen Back to the Future, but I know of, like, the terminology that just gets thrown around. So you can see. That's what it felt like, especially with the vehicle and everything. I wasn't sure if, I was like, is this supposed to be, like, am I supposed to laugh because I'm going, like, ha ha ha, this is like Back to the Future and how cheesy it is? Or are they expecting me to go like somebody watching Back to the Future when it first came out, taking it seriously? Like, when Back to the Future first came out, when he says gigawatts, are you supposed to go like, damn, that's a lot of gigawatts? I don't know.
So. I mean, Back to the Future is a comedy.
Okay. I mean, I know it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a sci-fi comedy.
Sure. But I mean, I would say I've been learning about a lot about Robert Zemeckis as of late.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely supposed to be laughing a lot in Back to the Future. Like,
yes,
especially
I'm
with the science
aware,
stuff.
but okay, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, like gigawatt specifically is like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a line that makes you just go like, that must be a lot.
Speaking of power, by the way, did you notice that the mobile lab apartment building is powered by Duracell batteries?
No, it didn't.
There are giant Duracell batteries there.
How did I not notice that? It makes sense. But and again, this does further my thing of like, if you make something bigger, it does have more of
Power
that
in it,
thing.
yeah.
More power, more apple, more whatever, more human.
Like, the only thing that contradicts that in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp is the punches. Specifically just the punches. Just the, when you punch when you're tiny, it's the same as when you're punching as, you know, a full-size person.
Well, that's not true.
Uh-huh.
No, because when they punch when they're tiny, they're holding back.
Sure.
Like, I'm just saying that sentence
Okay.
of when they're punching when they're tiny, it's the same as like
Right.
like yeah, it's not. It is them holding back. Or like that's why the punch, like that is the explanation why the punches do different stuff each time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's entirely just covering their ass. It's the Titan gravity shit. It's still like, if this looks weird to you, here's the explanation why.
Ah, fair. But yeah, like, apart from that, regardless of the, you know, atoms getting closer or farther to the other thing, the series is relatively consistent with, when something is tiny, it is actually a tiny version of that thing, and it works the same.
Yeah.
And it is lighter. Like, that's the thing. Like, it is never the exact same weight. That's why Scott can, like, ride on tiny hands.
Yeah,
And then
and
when he
why they can just pick up a building like it's a milk carton.
Yeah, and why when Scott gets bigger, he is, like, displacing tons of water, and he can still move around, and he's not dying. Like, he uses a lot of personal energy, but...
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
assume, like, I don't know how that works. Like, is he using the same amount of energy as a small, normal Scott? Because, like, if he goes to punch, it is like, I'm gonna punch you. And it's like, he has to be like, that has to be why it's so exhausting. Because he's like, it's how much energy we, as a person, if we are, like, holding Scott's arm, moving it, going like, alright, punch at this arm. Like, you are having to exert so much energy trying to move this arm, rather than if he actually was that big and could just punch. Like, it is so weird that he's so slow while he's so big.
Yeah.
And it has to be because he doesn't, you know, that, like, the energy is, it just takes so much more energy to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works with, like, the battery then.
Because you would assume then that also, like, human beings have energy inside of us. Like, we have food energy and whatnot.
Yeah.
If the battery gets bigger and it has more energy in it, you would assume that we, you know, if Scott gets bigger, all the food inside of him also gets bigger.
Yeah, and I mean, like, realistically, me could not move Scott's big giant body. Like, no matter how much energy I'm using, even if it's not like a resistance thing where it's like I'm actually dragging the arm, but like, you know, magically, like, you know, whatever, it still would not possibly be enough. So, I don't know, it does make sense. The humans being big doesn't make sense with anything else being big, but it's consistent in itself with the big human and the big other things. You just can't think of them as the same thing, even though they are.
Yeah, because then you also have, like, ants, for instance. Like, there's, I forgot what name they gave it, but there's the ant that is, like, carrying out Scott's routine over the 24 hours. And that ant doesn't seem to be negatively affected.
Well,
like,
it is, like, much lighter and slower than a normal ant. Like, if it's, like, doing a drum thing, it's, like...
True.
Whereas, like, a normal ant would just be, like... You know? It is like Big Scott. It is insanely slow for seemingly no reason. I don't know what the reason is, but it's consistent with the creatures getting bigger.
Sure.
Doesn't make any sense,
I guess my main problem then is, like, if Scott is big for a short amount of time, it completely wipes him. But the ant is, very big for an ant for a
Forever.
long time.
Forever.
Like, you can assume that
That's a good point.
You could say that, the ones that, like, Hank is using to, fix stuff in the lab, like, he could just be letting those ones die. He sucks.
Yeah.
But that specific ant at home has to be, like, that's one ant. He's doing all sorts of mischief and shenanigans.
That is curious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that works. I mean, again, Scott could just be getting another. He doesn't have technology.
Yeah, like that has to be the same one.
Yeah. Oh, this hurts my brain. Maybe this ant has a lot of energy.
So much energy.
It's feeding this ant so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, size changing is wild. That is why, of course, when Disneyland eventually reopens, you can go there and you can go to Hank Pym's lab where he shrinks and grows your burger. So the burger has a big patty and the rest of it's very small. And you can eat that and you'll be fine.
Fuck you, Hank. Give me a whole goddamn big burger.
You could solve world hunger and instead you just made the patty bigger for fun and you shrank the rest. Why? Hank, you madman.
I do hope they use this healing juice for, like, stuff in the world, by the way. Again, now we have more ways to just super heal people that is possibly going to not be put into the public again. All the Avengers now have their own, like, super healing thing that they just won't let anybody else use.
Oh, yeah.
So mean.
I feel like, legitimately, by Phase 4, they gotta start releasing some of this stuff.
It's gonna be impossible to watch Phase 4 if everyone in the world does not have universal healthcare. And by universal healthcare, I just mean a jar of heal juice. Just give everybody a jar of heal juice.
What if an Endgame Thanos snaps away all the science?
No, Thanos!
No more, none of all the plot holes. All science gone.
I will erase half of all plot holes.
Oh no!
Only half.
So that is our Janet discussion.
I feel nothing about Janet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think she looks really cool, but that's as far as I go with Janet.
There's definitely a story there. She physically looks like she's been doing okay in the quantum realm. She's got, like, the big cloak now.
She has definitely fought something.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's up with that. Because, what is she fighting down there?
I don't know if we're gonna get, backstory, but that is something I'm genuinely really curious about. We gotta talk about it in a future movie, right?
I mean, it's totally possible for them to just do Ant-Man and the Wasp, whatever, and it be an entire flashback movie of Hank and Janet. I'm like, because of the way the title's organized and that, you could just do that.
You could. By the way, I don't know quite how it works, but the place where Scott went to the end of the first Ant-Man movie was, as they say in this movie, the Quantum Void. And the Quantum Void is...
Okay, it wasn't the Quantum Realm?
It's in the Quantum Realm, but the Quantum Void is, the area where, after you do the thing where, you turn to a bunch of different versions of yourself and then implode.
Yeah.
It's the big void area. That's also where Hank's ship goes briefly. And Janet's Janet's instructions were, shrink all the way down, you'll go to the Quantum Void, then then track me using my voice, and then you will, go to... I forget what they called it, but, that area. The area with all the stuff.
Wait, so when he was doing the tardigrades, that was the Quantum Void?
No.
Okay.
No, that was after the tardigrades.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I was wait, what? I thought I understood that scene.
Yeah. No, there is a scene where he's, in absolute pitch black.
Okay, yeah, you're talking about that.
In the ship. And then he, moves forward for a bit, and then he busts through into the area where Janet was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't understand that.
I mean, that's some real brain-hurty juice.
I mean, that's just, how do we make the Quantum Void look? Planet.
I mean, that and also, Janet's got to be somewhere there, but they wanted to do, a bit of an adventure thing, as opposed to, remember when Scott was there, and then it was just pure black?
Yeah. That's what I was like, why does this look so different from Scott is?
But yeah, Scott was only ever in the Quantum Void. He didn't go on through.
Bust through the Quantum Void to the Quantum Hole.
We also, thematically, the movie tries to do something with Janet's voice. Along with, Cassie's voice from the first movie. where like Scott
But
hears it.
I
And then,
was
yeah.
fully 100% prepared for Hank to be on that, like, the planet. Let's just say the small planet.
Sure.
And, you know, to, like hear the voice go walk in the direction and it be just a red wardrobe where he has to open up and Janet's inside it. I was fully expecting that.
I think they had to hold back.
That's like, when we started doing the flashback with Hank, I was like, that's what we're doing. We're seeing him go to the red wardrobe. He's going to open it up, and then we're going to cut back to real time, and it's going to be a red wardrobe in front of him.
Their technology has...
Also, really quick, I gotta say, I think the most, like, wackadoo crazy scene in this thing was like in terms of like suspension of disbelief or just like plot hole. I mean, this I'm a joke. This is a joke when I'm saying this. I should clarify.
Yeah, sure.
But of them talking about the like Scott talking about the dream that he had, him saying it was so real that he like called them up and everything, and then going to them and then explaining it again, and then them continuing questions like, you saw a little girl in it, like you're like, I was Janet. I opened up a cabinet and saw a little girl. Isn't that crazy? Why would Janet be playing hide and seek with a little girl? And then they're continuing with further questions. It's like, yeah, I don't understand why you, Hank, your wife that you had a daughter with, would be playing hide and seek with a little girl. That's so insane, right? It's so weird. Why would that happen?
It wasn't Cassie, but I don't know who it could have been.
Who could there? It's not like you guys have ever had a little girl in the house. Hope's always been this age, right? That was I don't know, like that didn't feel like it was supposed to be, or it just felt like it was going on too long.
Sure.
Where it's just like, well, I get it. Scott's dumb. Is anybody this dumb?
I do have to side a little bit with Hank not letting Hope, have the suits. If her if her idea of hiding is, I will always go to the same place.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, a little pause there.
I didn't appreciate like that. That felt like a dig at a lot of movies. Like a lot of movies do that sort of thing where they'll just do like a really dumb, like, I could see any other movie where we just have it ended with like I always hid there or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like so many movies do that sort of thing where it's just like when you think about it for more than a second, it's like, how did anybody sign off on this? And I guarantee you somebody in the writing room probably just came up with that, and then somebody else was like, why would she do that? Yeah, we'll just have a line about it.
See, that one didn't bother me that much because
it didn't bother me at all. I just like I felt like in that moment they probably wrote this and then wrote the joke second, rather than like, let's do a joke about this.
I definitely had the experience many times of talking to my cousins when I'm, like when I was 18 or so, about when we used to play hide and seek when I was 7, and they'd be like, yeah, I wanted to know, by the way, like, did you have like a tracker on me or something? Because every time we played hide and seek, like, I know you just kind of watched some TV for a while and you went and found me, and you always found me immediately. Why was that? And I would have to say, yeah, it's because you always hid in the same place. You just didn't really realize that because you were a tiny child.
I guess, yeah, maybe that is the thing. Never had that happen, but what next?
Let's talk about Luis and the gang.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, I was so worried we weren't gonna get them this movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, I talked about this so much in my pre-discussion because I was so worried that we weren't gonna get them. So, whew, so glad we did. So glad they had a bigger role than they had in like the first movie. Kind of felt like. A little bit. I mean, it's hard to tell, but
yeah, I'd say it's about the same, just difference.
Yeah, yeah. Because we weren't being introduced to them, like a lot of the stuff was just being introduced to them, so maybe that's why I'm feeling that way.
And the first movie was much more of a like traditional heist movie.
Yeah.
Where like you have like the group and you figure out what they can do, and like they introduced all the specific ants as they like you got to use each one of these ants. Yeah. Whereas this movie was much more like you know what's going on.
Yeah, before it was definitely Ant-Man 1 was very tropey, and Ant-Man 2 is not very tropey. Ant-Man 1 though, I think is funnier, but I don't want to say like Ant-Man and the Wasp is entirely better than Ant-Man, or the first one. I think Ant-Man is funnier, but then for most of the aspects, I think the second one's better. I
would say, and this is both good and bad, I would say that Ant-Man had something to prove. The first Ant-Man movie was this, like, this movie's been in development hell for, like, 20 years.
Yeah.
No one's going to think that a guy who shrinks is cool. We just did the Avengers, and then they're going to be like, why wasn't this guy here earlier? I think they had to, like, they lent to a lot of tropes, I think, because they needed something very rock solid.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse, this movie doesn't have that. It doesn't have anything to prove, so it is able to do much goofier things, and they lean a lot more into like the crazy science and the like.
Yeah.
Here's a bunch of characters.
I think
I think it makes it a little more sloppy, but it also makes it like it's a much more flavorful movie.
Absolutely. Ant-Man 1 is funnier, it has cooler fights, and the villain is funner. It's not like better villain, but just a funner villain.
Sure.
And so it's just all around, it's fun. It's funnier and it's funner, both in terms of the fights and the villain.
Uh-huh.
But I think that Ant-Man and the Wasp is a better movie, just all around. I think it just has better writing. I think it is better, like, characters. I think everything is better about it generally.
All right.
It's just not as fun. But fine with that.
Okay. I think that's fine.
Because it's still very funny. It's just not as funny. But I'm not saying, like, oh, it's not a very funny movie. It was a very funny movie.
Yeah.
I love the truth serum stuff with Louis. Or, like, that, they did such a great job of, like, we have the big exposition, exposition is the word, at the beginning, with, like, what is the goal of the entire movie and everything, which was so funny to me because my whole, like, discussion of what the movie was like it's gonna be the Hydra stuff from last, the person who got, like, the serum, or, like, we're going to be, what else did I say? Like, we're just gonna be doing another, like, big heist sort of thing, and, like, at the very end, I was like, oh, yeah, and by the way, we're probably gonna get Janet back. That's gonna be, like, a, small thing or whatever. And it's like, I expected that getting Janet back to be, like, a 5-10 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be a, like, we start out the movie with, hey, we got Janet back. Like, I really didn't think it was going to be that big of a problem.
Okay.
I mean, in all honesty, it wasn't. Like, the problem was all the factions stopping them and everything.
Sure.
But getting Janet back was not a big problem.
Okay.
That, like, the act of going in and building this thing, getting Janet, that was all relatively easy, which is what I thought it was. So I'm actually glad that, like, even if I didn't think about what the plot of the movie was going to be, but in terms of how easy that was, I'm glad that wasn't like a big, like, oh, this is going to be so hard and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's so easy now. Literally, Scott's just going in there to get healing juice and come back out. Like, they're so, like, casual, just going in and out of the void now.
I think it also makes them a lot more competent. Yeah. Because, like, all this other stuff is in the way, and you have the emotional stakes of, oh, crap, what if we can't do it? Like, there's enough there without having to all say, like, we have to, do all these calculations, so we need to, wait 25 hours.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just can't believe that, like, I was like, oh, yeah, they'll get Janet back. That's going to be a small, tiny little thing. And it's like, oh, yeah, that was the whole movie.
I remember you also, like, wondering at first with Ghost, like, was that Janet's?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I am awful at faces. I was like, obviously this hair is, not the same color in any way, but... there's various things, like, I'm terrible at faces. I don't know what the Quantum Realm could have done to Janet. It could have de-aged her, and, like, they're trying to do something like that. So many different... Yeah. I think when she went into the chamber, and, like, I was saying, like, they couldn't do that, like, at that point... I didn't end saying, like, definitely I know this isn't Janet, but from that point I was like, yeah, this isn't Janet. I don't think I said it concretely, but I was like, yeah... This is not Janet, but I'm also not going to voice that out loud in case it isn't.
Right.
I mean, in case it is. But yeah, I hate how bad I am with the faces. I hate that I am looking at somebody who is 30 years younger with dark hair, and I'm like, is this Janet? Don't do drugs, kids.
Oh, no.
What do you got next?
Well, we were just talking about Janet's. Let's talk about Ghost and Bill Foster.
Do you have anything you want to say about Janet? Like, her character?
Not a whole lot. Like, she was, like... A lot of people stopped being plot devices in this movie and started being, like, more fleshed out. But she was more of a plot device in this movie. She was the, like, we have to save her, and they didn't fully damsel her. Like, she does help with them saving her.
Yeah, she's not a damsel, but she's also... doesn't have screen time.
Yeah, and she has, like, the weird quantum powers, so it isn't just a, like, she has too many unknowns for me to really say anything else about her.
It introduces a lot of stuff without really doing much, like, clarifying what it is. Like, Ghost or, so that we don't really know what's going on with Ghost now.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea what is different about Ghost now. Like, she called out her powers, but it's like, they don't tell me if that's permanent, if that's gonna last a minute or so, if that's gonna, if the healing juice is going to like permanently stabilize everything. There's so much like mystery box in this movie.
Yeah.
There's just so much that they just don't really tell you about. And I do appreciate that, though, kind of.
Yeah.
It's very, like... Yeah. It's not... It's nice to have a really tight movie, but in the MCU, sometimes it's nice to not have a tight movie. Sometimes it's nice to let stuff go on.
Yeah, Ant-Man definitely feels the most, like... Of the movies that have done some level of super science, most of them just have it be a, here's a thing, we don't need to talk about how the thing works, like, the nature of it isn't that important.
Yeah.
But Ant-Man is a lot of like, here's some wacky ass super science, and we're gonna do stuff with this. But I mean, maybe we'll do some stuff with this. Maybe we won't. Maybe this is just really weird. Yeah. It's more comic booky than a lot of the other super science in the MCU.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, I don't know how this works.
It absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
Really quickly, unrelated to entirely everything, I just remembered it. Yeah. I'm glad they did the Luis like a one-hit knockout punch thing, but didn't mention it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did a few things like that in this movie where like they did like a callback without having to like call out that it's a callback, which is very rare for the MCU.
Yeah,
I know the MCU does a lot of like wanting to actually call out their callbacks, specifically when it's like minor characters. Like major characters, they're totally fine doing that. But when it comes to minor characters, they feel like they need to remind you that this is a reference.
I mean, like, the MCU is designed for reactions in a sense. Like, it is designed for audience reactions.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of, like, for the big characters, they leave a pause so you can scream, "Oh, it's Thor!"
Yeah.
With the small characters, it is more of a, like, they want you to feel smart in the theater. So they do, like, spell it out a little more. They bring up a line that came up before, so you're like, right, like an Ant-Man.
Yeah, yeah. I know why they do it, but...
Yeah, I think the difference with this one is partially also, like, because it came after Infinity War. Because, like, the audience is going to be a mix of people who really liked Ant-Man and were like, I want another Ant-Man, and people who are like, I don't know who Ant-Man is.
Yeah.
Like, it would break up the flow too much to call out a lot of stuff.
And honestly, a lot of the comedy in this movie felt like it was for people who had not seen or had very, like, passingly remembered the old MCU movies or had seen, like, a couple or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, especially a lot of the jokes, like, at Scott's expense and stuff like that. The joke about the wings and the blasters, it was a funny line, but it also felt like a line, not in a negative way, but just kind of felt like a line of, like, you have a passing knowledge of the MCU, right? And if you have a passing knowledge of the MCU, you've probably heard, like, people talk about, like, oh, why didn't this character do this during this movie?
Right.
Like, that is the number one thing I've heard about the MCU before I got into the MCU.
Yeah.
Which, getting into the MCU, I'm surprised that there's barely that as a problem at all. Mm-hmm. Not until in Infinity War did I encounter a problem of why is this character not in this movie, or why did this happen here instead of here, blah, blah, blah. Where was this technology before? Those sort of, like, classic comic book nerd things that you think that people are, like, I don't know how to put it. It is like it's in the cultural zeitgeist that nerds just argue about that stuff, even though I've never seen it in the wild.
Okay.
Right? I think I've talked about that a lot before. Mm-hmm. Of, like, people talking about plot holes in, superhero stuff versus, like, not really hearing people talk about it a lot in real life.
Right.
Either way, that's what that joke felt like. It felt like, for those kind of, like, people who are, like, it was like a dig at, like, where was this technology before? Oh, I just didn't feel like it. Mm-hmm. Where it didn't feel like I had that question or anybody had that question, mm-hmm. and they put it in there anyway. Still, I think the funniest question, because it's just so in line with Hank's personality.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff like that, where it's like, it felt like jokes for, like, casual fans that still were as funny. Jokes for casual fans that would be equally as funny if you were a hardcore fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I wasn't going to bring this up, but, like, it's about that specific scene. I do like the reveal in the first Ant-Man movie that suit was made, because it is a very clear, Darren Cross didn't do anything special. Because the big, like, advantage that the Yellow Jacket has is it can fly and it has blasters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And now we know the Wasp suit was already made before any of that happens, before Darren took over. Yeah. And it also has wings and blasters. It's fine. It can do everything. The Yellow Jacket was not a big deal. It was just that Darren, didn't have the technology.
It has the lasers.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the lasers are, they are different technology than the blasters.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not that much more impressive.
Yeah.
Like the Yellow Jacket seems like it's a hell of a lot faster. To be fair, like the wings on Wasp don't seem like she can go that fast. You know, she can travel like it takes her about 1 second to travel between like a whole room.
Sure.
Whereas like the Yellow Jacket seems like it could travel across a whole street in like 2 or 3 seconds. Like it was like, you know, it could keep up with speeding cars and stuff like that. Whereas it doesn't seem like she would be able to.
Yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, it does have an advantage.
Yeah. So it probably had like wings and like jets as well, or like, you know, something that was like aiding the wings. You know, like that wouldn't be like visible, but
yeah. You wanted me to bring up comedy structure.
Oh yeah. I kind of already talked about it a little bit, but a lot of the comedy in the MCU and even like Ant-Man 1 was you know, like set up punchline. You know, that classic just set up punchline.
Yeah.
This movie has a lot of specifically like set up punchline, punchline.
Okay.
Like I noticed that specific pattern a lot. Like, you know, some things might do just like set up punchline, or set up punchline. You know, so many different things. But like specifically set up punchline, reset up, same thing, set up punchline, then 3 more punchlines off of that.
Okay.
Like, what is a good example? Okay, like the truth serum scene is probably a good example.
Okay.
Of like they bring up the like setup of like talking about what this truth serum is as we're going like, oh, okay, so this is truth serum, and then, you know, they say punchline, okay, so truth serum. Then they say, no, it's not truth serum. Let me explain why it's not truth serum. Set up again for the exact same punchline we just got.
Yeah.
Punchline again. Then we can do the truth serum scene, which we're having like 3 punchlines based off of that, like the romance thing that he starts going into, then the Alvalita thing, and then I actually can't remember, but the third thing that he goes into, which I can't remember. Like he says something before he goes into the actual like, you know, oh, they're in the woods. Like when he was just like saying like, you know, oh, emotionally speaking.
Yeah.
Like, oh, physically speaking, where is he? And then we get the actual scene to play out.
Yeah.
But like the comedic part of the scene does follow set up, punchline. And yeah, I just thought that was a very interesting style of comedy structure to the movie, because it happens a lot. I think that was the clearest one I could think of an example for. But yeah. A lot of like the lab stuff I remember feeling that way too. Like the Janet thing I remember feeling that way heavily. I can't like do it off the top of my head without rewatching the scene to be able to like pick up like the set up punchline part. But like yeah, I mean it's sort of the same thing where like it's being taken over and it's like punchline is it's in Scott's body, still doing this like, okay, this is Janet. Punchline again, this is Scott's body, and then we can do a couple punchlines based off of that. Yeah. But they do a lot of like that specifically also like reestablish the joke, and then you can do a bunch of the joke, as opposed to like doing set up punchline and then being able to work off that as how much they want. It didn't. I'm not saying it felt like like they didn't have trust in the audience or whatever. I don't know what I would call it. It didn't feel like it was not trusting like that. It was like we need to do it twice to like get it in their heads or whatever. It just felt like, I don't know, unique. I liked it. It was different. I just wanted to bring it up.
I think it's just like it is a very comforting pattern, because it also means you don't have to be thinking that hard about it, because like you get the setup, you get the punchline, and if you're spacing out a little bit, like you do get the setup again. Like it is a very clear like this is what the scene is going to be about. And I do, like, surprisingly, with all the punchline, I never really got tired of most of them. Like, when Scott's, like, running out of the, like, down the stairs of the school, and he gets into the van. Yeah. They hit him with, like, 3 punchlines real fast about his weird child body.
Yeah, and again, that's is set up with, like, the suit malfunctioning. Yeah. Punchline, Scott is, like, very tiny. Then we do that again with her trying to fix the suit and everything. Yeah. Set up. Punchline, Scott is stuck in that body. Then we can rapid fire punchlines at him. Yeah. Like, it is same structure. And yeah, I think like normal MCU movies have just like the just rapid fire a lot of times, just set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline, and then you get a lot of like ha 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 ha, but it's all like kind of the same level of laughter.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're ramping it up, you can have like you laugh at the truth serum a little bit thing, and when they say the truth serum thing a second time, you're laughing at it again because it's like even the movie's doubling down on like the. You know, you start to expect the movie to be like, okay, the movie's taking itself a little bit too seriously if they're going to try and say it's not truth serum, to double down, like, no, this is truth serum. And then getting to, like, every time he furthers into the, like, whatever you would call that thing that he does.
Yeah.
Like, this super lengthy
long story.
Yeah. Like every time it just becomes funnier and funnier and funnier throughout because like there's not like a break in punchline. The punchline flows right into the next punchline, into the next punchline, into the next punchline. So while you're still laughing at one, then you if you want to laugh at the second one, have to laugh even harder. Like, whereas like if you're doing the rapid fire setup punchlines, you can stop laughing during the setup and then laugh again. So you're just sort of laughing the same amount.
Right. Yeah, it does make it stand out as a comedic movie amongst, like, you know, just the base level comedy of the MCU, and then also the movies that are trying to be more funny, like Guardians.
Yeah. Yeah, Guardians has a lot. That's why I wanted to. That is why I wanted to bring up the comedy structure, because I wanted to specifically talk about Guardians, actually.
Okay.
Guardians structure, compared to the rest of the MCU movies, which are just setup, punchline, setup, punchline, is a lot of setup, 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 punchline, 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 punchline. Guardian has a hell of a lot of we set up all the jokes in the beginning of the movie, then we pay off all those jokes at the end, and then have throughout the movie some punchline setups, you know, throughout. But their biggest jokes are always set up and then punchline at the very end.
Yeah.
And like that is very unique to Guardians. We talked about that a lot, and so I really appreciate the different style there.
Yeah. Like by this point in Phase 3, I mean. By Phase 2, a lot of people are starting to say the classic, oh man, all the MCU movies are the same. And Phase 3 tried very hard. Like, I would say the definitive thing with Phase 3, especially the second half, was we don't want people to feel like all MCU movies are the same. But we do want to still have, like, the winning formula. Like, we want to still, like, when you go into an MCU movie, it feels like an MCU movie.
I mean, it also helps just shooting on similar cameras and stuff. It helps that. Like, DC, a lot of problem there, they just shoot on different cameras, and that just alone, by itself, makes it not feel like a universe. Yeah.
And also, there's, like, a lot of, especially by the end of Phase 3, there's a lot of interplay with the directors.
Yeah. Where
they can bounce off each other, which also means that, like, you know, they don't share a lot of jokes, or have like a lot of jokes don't like you never go like, oh, they did this joke better in Guardians, but now it's just Ant-Man and the Wasp. They do have a way to consciously go like, people are going to be watching all of these movies, so if we're going to do a reference, we can do a reference. If we're going to like do a really good joke here, we're going to intentionally exclude it from the rest of the movies.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, talking about again Phase 3 being different and everything. Not in a good way, but now that I think about it, Doctor Strange's comedy structure is very just punchline, 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 no setup. Never setup. Always just punchline. Like, most of the jokes in Doctor Strange just come. Like, they just happen. There's nothing like, we were doing this, and then the punchline is this is what is funny about that scenario. It's just sort of, we cut to joke happening.
Right.
Like, one of the funniest scenes in Doctor Strange, it's not that funny, but it's still like one of the funniest scenes, is the Wong in the library with the music and everything, and Strange stealing and everything, which is, we have the setup and punchline of the music thing, but then all the other comedic stuff in the scene going on is not a setup punch, it's just punchline, 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 not from any setup at all. Like, just jump to jokes happening.
Right.
And so, yeah, that is definitely not my style, and I'm probably not, even more so not a fan of Doctor Strange. I mean, like, you know, it's somewhat comedic, but I mean, like, we jump into Infinity War with them just mid-joke happening with the money, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's not, like, a setup to it. It's just we jump in the middle of a joke. And it's not like you can do, like, again, those jokes are still sometimes, you know, humorous. It's not like they're not funny. It's not like it immediately makes it not funny if you don't have a setup, but...
Right,
It's still, it's not great. They didn't do it good. They didn't do it good.
Okay, so I think that's enough about the jokes.
Yes.
Let us talk about Bill Foster and, by relation, also Ghost / Avastar.
Yeah.
surprisingly, in this movie, they don't really say Avastar a lot. Like, this is one of the few MC movies I can think of where they use the villain name more than, like, the person name.
Yeah. They just also started using the villain name just so suddenly.
Yeah.
Capital G Ghost, I guess this is what we're doing now. But yeah, so it's Ava and not Ava?
Actually, no, it is Ava. You're right. It's...
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So Ava Star.
This is a, like... We haven't had a lot of Hank screwing over people. Like, Ant-Man 1 was a, you know, like, he's very abrasive, but he is the one who got screwed over on this specific deal.
Yeah, like, he was the one on the right. We are rooting for him.
Yeah, and he, you know, it makes it hard to root for him sometimes, but we are rooting for him overall.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a, like... this also is not a, like, because you did this, you were able to do this much better thing, or, you know, you were saving the world. It is a, yeah, you fired this guy because you hated him, and that was my dad. And then my dad tried to, you know, restore his standing because you destroyed his life, and then this happens.
Now, I will say, by the way, I probably would have enjoyed this movie a hell of a lot more. So much more if I had not seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
Because this is like a season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like done in like a just movie.
Sure. I could see that.
Like specifically like the Sunny stuff and like mainly the Sunny stuff. Like all of them like on the road and everything. Also like the Bill stuff with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Ghost and everything like that. Yeah, not just the Sunny stuff. The Ghost stuff is super duper. Ghost and Bill and Hank and everything going on like that. It feels so much like a S.H.I.E.L.D. season done in a movie and everything like that. And it's done so much better than S.H.I.E.L.D.
Really?
But, oh yeah. But I mean because you know it's not like. Of course, Hank was in the right for firing him, and Hank is a good man for firing him. And how dare you not like the police? You know, but it's because I've already just seen that, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has left such a sour taste in my mouth. You know, just seeing a similar plot was kind of just like a. It gives me that sort of like, you know, feeling in my stomach of just like, It's like when you watch a show when you're sick staying home from school, and even if it's a good show, then when you watch it again, you sort of just feel a little bit sick. Like, it's sort of that feeling. Like, it just, even though it's not S.H.I.E.L.D., it gives a little sick feeling. It's like I'm watching S.H.I.E.L.D.
And to be fair, this is the first time in a long time that we've had, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. come up as a, like, not as a, you know, ever since S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, but as a specific, like, this is the thing that S.H.I.E.L.D. did. S.H.I.E.L.D. made her an assassin and, you know, had her kill a bunch of people. Like, it's been a while. The movies have, you know, been very conscious about trying to shift more to, like, damage control or the FBI or the CIA.
Yeah. I'm sure, by the way, that S.H.I.E.L.D. tried to work this into, like, whatever season's going on during S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm sure they had a whole thing of, by the way, the evil Ant-Man and Hank Pym and all them are trying to take Ghost from us and trying to kidnap her from us, so we gotta go get her back and use her as a soldier because, yes, we know that it's bad, but it's better than just letting her live her life as a normal person.
We've sent some agents out to get real Ghost. You won't see them. Meanwhile, we're going to fight Ghost 2, who has the similar powers, but they look a little worse.
But yeah, I mean, like, that is really the difference, is that, like, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, our characters would have been the bad guys.
Right.
Like, that's just an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season. It's just, like, there is this person that we experimented on and turned them into a soldier from a child, and somebody's trying to free them, or, like, Hydra's got them, so now we gotta, you know, get them back, and instead of setting them free, we have to just make them a child soldier again.
Oh, boy.
But so yeah, it was refreshing seeing it, but just like S.H.I.E.L.D. has left such a bad taste in my mouth that I'm just like, I don't care, I don't want to see it, I don't want to see S.H.I.E.L.D. It's less than just like I didn't trust them to handle it well. They did handle it well, but just throughout the movie, I had a little bit, you know, of a feeling in my stomach like, oh, they're not gonna handle this well.
And I mean, I can't fault you for that, because a lot of your S.H.I.E.L.D. reactions were also biased with the reverse of, you know, you had some faith that they were going to handle it well. Yeah. And that changed the way you talked about it, and then, like, it wasn't until way later that you're like, oh, by the way, those seasons were not doing what I thought they were doing anyway, so yeah, it's not great.
It's wild to me, looking back on season 1 of S.H.I.E.L.D. and realizing, like, you know, like, this is not, like, a moral quandary. Like, this whole season, I thought they were supposed to be doing a, like, you know, oh, it's a moral quandary. Do you trust in the system or don't you? And it's like, no, it was supposed to be a, yes, why aren't you trusting in the system, audience? Audience, trust in the system.
That's wild.
It really felt like all season 1 was the characters coming to, you know, conclusions of maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. is bad. And then, nope. That's the wrong conclusion to come to. Captain America is evil.
So, on the opposite tack, Bill Foster.
Great character. Love him. Such a good, S.H.I.E.L.D. character, because, like, I think they could have done a little bit more with him.
Sure.
Had him, because it's very unclear as to if he was part of, the Ghost stuff at all.
Right.
Like, considering that, when S.H.I.E.L.D. fell and he got Ghost, it seems like he would have had to, but he doesn't say, and they never say, that he was a part of it in any way.
Yeah, like, all we see is that he used to work with Hank Pym, they split up. Afterwards, when the Ghost thing happened, he, saw her as a child, and then we don't know if he was part of that or not. Or
Which feels like a little bit of a cop-out. Because, like, I assume that he is, but just them not saying it feels like a little bit of a cop-out.
Yeah. Because the implication is definitely supposed to be that he wasn't.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to really think about it that hard. It is just, he met her as a child, she became a child soldier, he didn't know about it, and then somehow they got back together after S.H.I.E.L.D. fell.
Yeah. I don't think he is, one of the best S.H.I.E.L.D. characters I've seen. That said, still, it's whatever. Like,
Sure.
he's a good character, but he's not, like, a great character. He's not, I don't care. Bill is Bill. He was fun to watch in the movie.
It was nice to see someone trying to just do the right thing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to a character who tries to do the right thing, but there is this, like, hard line of, like, we have to do this thing at all costs, and that is, the gray line. Whereas Bill's thing is more of a, like, I really want to help you, but, like, my morals prevent me from saying, yeah, kidnap that kid.
Yeah. And, like, yeah, they were willing to do a lot, but, like, that was, not... And, like, most of what he does in the movie is not bad. He doesn't do anything really bad in the movie at all.
Yeah.
Like, the Janet thing. But, again, that's also kind of a cop-out of, like, they tell us, like, specifically Hope and Hank are telling us that if they do those, it will rip Janet apart.
Yeah.
Versus, like, Bill is saying, like, we don't know what will happen in any way. And it's like well, if you don't know, you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But also, it is like they're so concretely saying, it will tear her apart if you do this. And it's like well, I don't know. It was like the Vision thing, where it's like, everybody's arguing about Vision, and I'm like, I, as a reactor, can't add much to this, because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So, like, as a reactor, I'm just sitting here going, it's going to play out however it's going to play out. I've got no stakes in this. And, that sort of stuff is always, like, weird to me. Where it's like it's weird watching something where I have no stakes in it and the characters have a lot of stakes in it. Or I don't care about it anyway. Because, it's like, whatever they do to Janet, I don't care, because I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm not going to say, like, it's like, all I care about is, like, I want Janet to be safe, and it's like, I don't know what means is that.
Sure.
I don't know what thing they could do for that.
Yeah. I was excited to see Bill on the big screen, because he is I'd say a relatively big character, but not, like, a headliner. He debuted around the same time as Luke Cage, I want to say, like, 5 years after that, as Black Goliath.
Okay.
And his deal was that, like, Luke Cage was more blaxploitation-y. He was the, like, came out of jail, gonna just beat the shit out of a bunch of people. But he also protects Harlem, and he is a hero for hire. Whereas Bill Foster was the, like, he is a PhD scientist. He is a black man who is extremely smart. And, he works with Hank Pym. Hank's a dick. He steals some Pym particles, and he, like, can just mainline them into his body to become...
Okay.
At most of the time, he was 15 feet tall. As the movie says, he eventually got to 25 feet. But that was, like, his limits. He was never, like, super, super big.
Okay.
It was usually more of a, like, he's twice the size of the people he's fighting. Like, it is impressive.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. And
I like slightly big people.
Yeah. Like, I'd say he was maybe Hulk at the, like, he was usually Hulk-sized, I guess.
That's still pretty damn big.
It's pretty big.
That's huge. I mean, Hulk is massive. Two times the size of a normal person is big.
Yeah. But yeah, like...
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's cool that, it sounds like a cool superhero.
He was Black Goliath. For a while, he was Giant Man. He also stole the title from Hank Pym, so Hank couldn't call himself Giant Man. Which is, it's a big deal, because Hank likes his titles.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Eventually, he went back to just calling himself Goliath, because it wasn't the 70s anymore. And people of all colors can be Goliath. Yeah. Ghost, I don't have a lot to say about.
Because, I was gonna say, Ghost seemed like they were a big character in the comics or something.
Not really, no.
Very surprised.
Ghost is just a dude in the comics.
Okay.
Like, not a super important dude. Like, same power sets. But also, I don't remember Ghost in the comics backstory that well. It was just, like, there's not a lot of pathos to it.
Okay.
Like, most of what you see as Ghost in this movie is, like, whole cloth made for this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, Ghost's entire thing felt like it was just like an episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I mean, we've had so many episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that are basically like the Ghost, backstory.
Right.
Which is also why I was kind of just like, okay, yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that the movies haven't done very much. Like, specifically, a big accident happened, but it's not, like, directly tied to one of the heroes. It is just like, this thing happened over there, that's how they got their powers. Their powers you haven't really seen before in the movies.
Yeah.
It is more Monster of the Weeky, which would be more novel in a movie, but would not be very novel at all in the TV shows.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I definitely think they could have done a lot more with them. Like, I hate that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had to do the bulk of that sort of stuff.
Right.
It's like, they do have some interesting stuff there. They just don't, like, do a lot with it. Like, there's Donnie Gill, I think, is a really fascinating example of, like, a kid that was, like, a really smart kid and then got, ice or weather power sort of shit. Maybe it's ice powers. I think it's just entirely ice powers. Anyway, like, he was, being kept at S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything for a very short amount of time, but then was brainwashed there by S.H.I.E.L.D/Hydra, same thing.
Sure.
And then, like, being controlled by, like, he tries to run away from Hydra for so long. They keep coming after him. He keeps killing them. They keep coming after him. Eventually, they get to him, and we're able to, like, just trigger his brainwashing and everything. And then, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. just, like, kills him. Like, on the, they just, like, snipe him as, like, a... there's nothing we can do. If he has the brain control in him, we're just gonna kill him anyway. Sure. And like, they're gonna have so much interesting stuff with. I think him being on the run from Hydra and being like I don't want anything to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra. He was extremely anti S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. was trying to go like, oh, we're here to like help you and everything. He keeps killing them because he's like, stop it! You're gonna make Hydra find me.
Right.
And yeah, they could have done so much more interesting stuff like that, like Ghost here and. Yeah, because it's a TV show, they have potential to do so much more with those characters. Like Donnie has so much more, character than Ghost has. But it's just like, they don't do anything interesting with it. Whereas like Ghost, they do interesting stuff with, but just doesn't have a whole lot of character, because they only got time for a movie. And like that's the shit I hate. It's like you got so much more time and you're not utilizing it.
Right. I really like Ghost's effects. Like I like that she is like. We don't really see the being torn apart constantly, but we do see her being like out of phase with both space and time. Yeah. Like it's not a constant, but every once in a while you do see her like do the action before she does the action.
Oh yeah.
Or like she will make like, in addition to being like a very trained assassin and like having very assassin-like movements, she also does extra movements sometimes where like you can tell she doesn't know whether she's going to touch that table or not, or whether she's going to touch the door or not.
Yeah, like the future little vision things were really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, that was, I think, the most fascinating part. A lot of her Ghost stuff just, like, was so you could barely see this, like, little thing, but if that wasn't there, it wouldn't have made it as cool of a scene.
Yeah.
Especially with, like, her screaming and stuff. Like, every time she was about to yell, we would get the flash before it happened. Like, that was so impactful.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fighting was dope of just like, trying to fight as it's going through stuff like ghosting through the car and everything and then hitting the person outside the car. Oh, absolutely loved it. Again, there is a character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who has the exact same power set.
Okay.
They've already faced a Ghost character.
Oh, no.
And that ends in probably the dumbest way possible, which is the whole thing is just a ghost stalking a woman because he really loved her. And then the ending is just them going, if you love her, just... not like don't like pass on, like it was you are stuck on an alien planet, like that's what's happening. You are stuck on an alien planet and you are like phasing in and out.
Sure.
What you should do is just stay on the alien planet. That was their solution.
Oh no.
The solution was, we're not gonna help you. You're a creep, so you should just stay on this alien planet. It was real fucked up. They treated it as a, like, you should pass on and die and that. But what it really was you should just stay on this alien planet and stop trying to come back to Earth. S.H.I.E.L.D's so fucked up.
Oh, boy. That is insane. That is so wild.
Yeah, Shield, baby.
Oh, boy. But yeah, I am a sucker for intangible people who can be partially intangible.
Yeah.
Like how Ghost can, like, choose to make all of herself, like, she can go through the car, but then she can grab something and use that as leverage. And that does move the rest of her body, which is still intangible.
Yeah.
Like, I think that lends itself to a lot of really cool images. In a way that, like...
It was very unclear for me, for most of the movie, though, if she could do it or not. Like, I thought that it was supposed to be, like, she couldn't control it. But then, halfway through the movie, it became very obvious, like, she has to be controlling this.
Yeah. The only exposition we really get for that is her saying that the suit helps her.
Yeah.
And, like, most of the time when she freaks out and she can't do it very well, it is when she's out of the suit.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, it's very, very rare when she's out of the suit. It's almost, she's only ever out of the suit when she's in the thing, or in the tank.
We have, like, 2 or 3 scenes where she's not there.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they're not that long. I can understand it. Like, when she's interrogating Scott and the others with Bill. When they're
She's
tied
not
to
in
the
the
chairs.
suit?
She's on. She takes the helmet off, and that's what causes her to start, like...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I assumed if she took that off, it would still, you know...
Ah.
That's what was confusing.
Okay.
Because I was like, worse, every time we see her in the suit, it's still happening, so...
Right, it's...
But I didn't,
Yeah.
realize, like, she takes the helmet off, that doesn't count, or something. I don't, yeah.
It's narrative rule of when you can see the actress and not the suit actor in the suit, then it starts hurting her.
It's opposite Gantz rules.
Yeah.
I do think Gantz is fucking up on that so much of,
Yeah.
like, forgetting that you do need a helmet for things. Okay. Anything else as far as, like, characters? Who the fuck was Agent Stoltz?
Those agents were all, like, just Jimmy's, like, other people.
Okay, not important.
They're not-
Why'd you
they're
write
not
it down?
Just wanted to have them there in case.
Okay.
Yeah. Jimmy is important, but not really. The thing with Jimmy is that he is, like, he was around from before Marvel was Marvel. He was around during Atlas Comics.
Okay.
He was the main character in Golden Claw, which is... He's not Golden Claw. He was, like, a agent sent to kill Golden Claw. And Golden Claw is very, like, Mandarin / Fu Manchu sort of, like, Asian evil villain.
Jimmy Woo, I've definitely heard the name a lot. Like, it was weird to me because I was like, once they said Jimmy, I was like, oh, okay, I've heard that name. But I didn't want to say anything in my reaction because I couldn't remember what it was from or anything.
Yeah, the way he is in this movie isn't really, his deal in the comics. But yeah, like, super, super old character. Eventually, Marvel decided to, like, take him and a bunch of, like, Atlas-only characters and roll them into a 616 thing called the Agents of Atlas.
Okay.
Where, like, Jimmy's the leader, and they fight other characters from Atlas Comics.
You know what I probably know him from is just looking at, like, the Golden Age shit.
Probably.
I've researched so much of the Golden Age shit that it's like,
yeah,
that's probably where I know him from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that probably makes sense. Because I was thinking, like, where would I know him from? But that's probably where it is.
Yeah, because Golden Claw is pretty, like, people know about him as, like, one of those early Golden Age villains, especially like Namor, where, like, he has the headline of his own thing, but he's not the hero, or, like, he's supposed to be villainous. It is a, like, who is this man? What is he doing?
Yeah, I actually do. I'm remembering very clearly seeing him on, like, a list of stuff like that. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. He was, like, one of the, like, it's right between, like, the Golden Age and Silver Age, where I remember seeing him, like, as, like, in what is Marvel Comics being, like, a thing. And, it was, like, the Golden Claw. Anyway, moving on from that.
Yeah. There honestly are not a lot of characters in this movie.
No, like, I think we pretty much covered a lot. Like, there's some scenes I want to talk about, but, like...
Ghost's dad has a very bald, round head, and that is a reference to, of course, his character in the comics, Egghead, who is a scientist who has an egg-shaped head. It is exactly the shape of an egg, and people dunk on him a lot for it.
I mean, that's a good pun, Egghead.
Yeah. In this movie, he just makes a bad quantum tunnel and dies.
Yeah. That's how you do. That's how you do.
That is some of the lowest tier trivia.
That was the most, like, comic origin I've ever seen, by the way, of, like, what was he doing? What was he doing? Why didn't he leave with them? I mean, even if he did, they all would have blown up anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, like, he wasn't at the controls, like, tapping them to turn them off.
No, he was just standing there going, like, oh no!
Like, narratively, it's definitely supposed to be he stayed behind to turn it off, but we don't see him doing that.
No, he just kind of worries about it.
Yeah, I sure hope my daughter doesn't come back in. Oh no!
My daughter!
So I'll let you take the reins if there's anything else you want to talk about.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about like the scenes and everything. But first, let's take a quick break.
All right.
Actually, I feel like we talked about the scenes pretty well. You know, like I'm not sure what other scene we can talk about. Like the fights are not very fighty. There's not a whole lot I could talk about there. They're just more skirmishes than anything. And yeah, I feel like we just talked about most of the scenes. There's just not like much to talk about. Them. They're very surface level. Sure. I wanted to ask, do you know anything about like the behind the scenes of this movie in any way? Like specifically with the Ant-Man being small, like with Scott being small. You know anything about that at all?
No.
Because that, I'm very curious to see how they did that. It's definitely not a perspective shot, I don't think. Mm-hmm. And there's many points where I can tell that like Scott is on a green screen. Mm-hmm. But then there's also plenty of times where just the whole coat, like all the times when you can't see Scott's face, the coat feels like it's moving in a way that is so unnatural, like it's CG or something, but it doesn't look like CG. I'm watching it back and I'm like playing it like forever. It doesn't look CG, but it also does not move in a natural way.
Right. It's
and it's way too small for, like, they had to have gotten a kid and then also scaled down the kid.
Right, because I do know that they wanted to do like different things with size play that they hadn't done in the first movie at all.
Yeah.
So like, especially the fact that he's not kid sized. He is a weird like below a kid, but his proportions aren't like a kid. Yeah. Like they wanted to specifically give off like different vibes. That's also why like, you know, he gets really big in that room and is the very like, oh, he's super cramped.
Yeah. Because like it is it's like the one Indian movie that came out fairly recently of the like, it is like a grown actor shrunk down, so it's not, it is like the proportions of like a, you know, grown like fully sized, you know, human, at the scale of something even smaller than a kid,
right?
But like it is the proportions that make it hurt your brain so much.
Yeah.
And they get away with a lot with it being inside the sleeves and everything.
Yeah.
But when he's running, you can see where his hands are, like by where it just flops off of and everything. And it would be weirder if he wasn't wearing the hoodie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it would look so uncanny. But there's so many moments where it just feels like they could not have gotten a kid to do this because the movements feel so unnatural. And even like, it's just like, I don't, like when he goes down the stairs, like how do you get that shot with his hand up on the railing? Like how do you do that? That shot blows my mind.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Like all of the they did a really. I know how they do all the shots with like Hope in them. There's never really a shot with Hope and Scott in the same one where I don't know how they've done it, just like a perspective shot or like put in the camera somewhere. But it is the ones where it's just Scott, which is weirder, and that's what's crazy because it doesn't feel like, you know, like there's the times where it doesn't feel like he's on, like when they're outside the school, a lot of that's on a green screen.
Yeah.
Like when he's getting into the van and everything like that. Like getting into the van looks so weird. He does like, he gets off the step, puts up the hood. Clearly, like, you know, they don't want to have to capture his face onto the hood anymore. And then the way he gets into the van is so like, that was clearly all green screen. He just hopped on like a, you know, platform that was there or something.
Yeah.
Like he's not really on the seat correctly. It's really weird. But yeah, the rest of it blows my mind. If you guys know about that in the behind the scenes, let me know. So, do you have any trivia at all about the movie? Like, besides what we've already gone over? I don't think there was a whole lot of trivia for this one. It was straightforward.
It was also a very tight movie.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of extra characters. They didn't really have to, like, they weren't given a lot of mandates with, like, you gotta do this or that. So yeah, it was a pretty smooth movie. The only big thing was the opening scene, which we already talked about.
Yeah. So, all right, yeah. If you guys got any other trivia, let me know in the comments or something. But yeah, those were pretty straightforward for that one. All right, what are your final questions?
So, how, if in any way, do you think this movie will impact Endgame?
So, Hope is going to have, or no, sorry, that was my original theory. But now, Ghost and Bill know about Scott in there. Assumingly, they probably said they're gonna go try and get you some healing juice. Bill might be dusted, but Ghost is probably gonna be still around. Maybe they're both not dusted, but I can't see a universe in which Ghost is dusted and Bill is not, and Bill has to show up in Endgame, and you know, they would do Ghost. That's a fighty character. And then we could have Ghost fighting in Endgame as well. That's I mean, yeah, why wouldn't they? They're going to. They got to. If they do that, I want to see Luis and them in Endgame for some reason. I don't know why, but I need to see him in Endgame. Stuff him in.
No one is going to be happy if Luis punches out Thanos.
Stuff him in. Stuff it. But yeah, I think Ghost is gonna fight in Endgame in some way. By that I mean punches somebody. That counts as a fight.
Sure.
And obviously, like, Scott, I hope we get some really cool stuff with Scott and Hope doing some, like, team-up stuff.
Okay.
And it does seem like that gives us something to do in Endgame that isn't an immediate Thanos, like a brief, like, you know, before we do anything real big, we got a little side mission where we got to get Scott back.
Okay.
You know? And I think that's a fun little, like, you know, everybody's dusted, but, like, there's still, like, this way where there's, like, a consequence from the end of Endgame that we have to help somebody that is not like we have to do the immediately saving everybody's life and bringing them back somehow. It's a different kind of thing.
Okay.
So I think that'll be a thing. Again, I think that's going to be what I thought this movie was going to be, with like a 5-minute like saving Janet scene. We're going to have like a 5-minute like saving Scott scene. It's going to like Ghost is going to pop in there, get Scott, and get out.
Okay, sure.
That's my guess. Other than that, I can't see any other way for Scott getting out, so I feel like that has to happen. Like, I cannot see any other way in which Scott's just going to get it. I guess he could just make himself bigger, but it doesn't seem like he has those on him. But you would think that they would give him one just in case.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just going to do just in case, make myself bigger. Yeah.
At the end,
I think that's it, yeah.
Okay.
I don't have anything else to say. I don't think there's going to be any other, like, you know, thing that, like, carries over.
For the end credits, we did get the Ant-Man and the Wasp will return?
Question mark? Yes, they will. They will.
I mean, you do know about the third movie.
Oh, yeah, I do.
But you don't know the name, so...
I don't know the name.
You know the names of most of the others, so I'm going to just whip it out.
Okay, yeah. Is it Ant-Man and the Wasp, Fun in South America?
I do think they're probably going to try and make that intro happen again. They're going back to South America. They're going to keep on doing it until someone likes it.
But alright, what is it?
It is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Quantumania.
Yeah, 1M in the middle.
Yeah, I assume.
Quantumania.
Okay.
So, do you have any guesses for what will happen in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania?
Too much. That's what's gonna happen. Too much. I am not gonna be able to take anything that happens in the movie seriously in any way. It's gonna be absolute madness of sci-fi wacky-dacky shit.
Like, that is the wackiest title we've had thus far. So I do think that is the tone they're probably gonna go for.
Yeah, I mean that is Goofy Central. That's so wackadoo. All right. What else? What's your next question? Oh, that's so sweet.
Who would you want to have a suit? Like, in the same way, you know, Luis was like, "Oh, I want a suit."
Yeah.
Is there anyone else, like, in the Ant-Man world, or even like other characters who you would want to give a like size suit of some sort?
I mean, Luis is just fine with a suit without powers. He just wants a suit.
Just a suit.
I love Luis. But I would definitely give Luis a suit for sure. I would give them all suits. I mean, they would probably do their business a hell of a lot better if they had their suit. Like, you imagine being able to do wire work if you're that small?
Oh,
it's gotta be amazing. Other than that, like, just a character that already exists, give Romanoff the suit. It's the Iron Man thing. Give them all suits. It's the thing I have dropped saying since very early in the MCU, but I will still stand with it. Give them all Iron Man suits. Give them all Ant-Man suits. There's literally no reason not to.
Well,
we talked about it with the Iron Man suit before.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, there's certain characters that don't need the Iron Man suit.
Sure.
But we talked about it extensively. I don't know which one it was. Go find it through all my reactions.
I will say, like, Iron Man suit makes more sense than the Ant-Man suit. Because the Ant-Man suit needs Pym particles, which are finite.
Okay, sure.
Iron Man has infinite energy. You just have to give it to once.
Sure. But in terms of, like, fighting making sense. The Ant-Man suit makes way more sense than the Iron Man suit.
Sure.
Like, put Hulk in Hulk, not Bruce Banner. Hulk in an Iron Man suit, stupid. Why? Dumb idea. Hulk in an Ant-Man suit, great idea. Amazing idea.
Tiny Hulk.
Tiny Hulk. I mean, there's nobody in the Ant-Man suit who wouldn't be better.
Right.
Unless, it's something like Vision, maybe the lasers wouldn't be as powerful if it was tiny.
Right.
I don't know how that would work with the Pym particles, but for the most part, it seems like there's no person who wouldn't benefit from being in this suit.
Yeah. Tiny Vision, I guess, would have to be weaker, because if Tiny Duracell, big, gives you enough power to power the quantum tunnel, then Vision, tiny, with the Mind Stone, Tiny Mind Stone has to be weaker than normal Mind Stone.
But wouldn't it be like them getting smaller where they are stronger?
But there's less energy there. If the Duracell that gets bigger has more energy in it.
Yes, but also if you get smaller, you get stronger.
I mean... That is the eternal question of how that works.
Doesn't make any sense. If you just take some normal size, shrink it down, then make the shrink down version really big, and that's infinite energy. I think. I'm not sure.
Oh boy.
What are we talking about?
I don't know.
We're talking about who gets the suit.
Yeah. If anyone.
Yeah, but going back to the movie actually for a second, one of the funny lines, I love So and Hank's personality to be like, you don't still have the suit, do you? Oh, no, of course not. What'd you do with the suit? I destroyed it. You destroyed my tech? Why would you destroy that?
And then the reversal is so strong.
Yeah.
I think that exchange specifically cements the two of them as people who will never be happy with each other.
Yeah.
There is no way in which they can have a conversation in which one of them is not pissed.
Yeah. I mean, even just the first time he says it is so contradictory.
Oh, yeah.
And then he contradicts the already contradictory. It's so perfect.
Oh, yeah. All right.
But yeah, the way he says, what? Why would you destroy it? After all that is so funny. He has great delivery. Oh, what's his actor's name? Hank's actor?
Hank's actor is, he's super famous. I can never remember his name. Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, yeah. Super good at the delivery.
Yeah.
I don't, think of him as a comedic actor. At least I've never seen him in anything comedic. So, to be fair, I've never really seen him in anything. But I watch a hell of a lot of comedy, so I would imagine that I would have seen him in something comedic if I would have. But yeah, his comedic delivery is amazingly on point. Whereas all the serious stuff was whatever, to be honest. His acting was, I don't care. But comedic acting, great. Fantastic. Beautiful. All right, next question.
I don't know if you noticed this, but in this movie, there are a lot of characters. Almost all of the main characters, we see them in multiple time periods. We see them as adults, but we also get flashbacks with them. And none of them do the Disney thing of we're going to digitally de-age you. All of them are other actors with makeup work and whatnot.
Yeah.
With Bill Foster, it is that actor's son who plays him when he's a kid. Or when he's, a younger person. It is all practical. Do you think...
I would say, the person they got for Hope as a kid did not look like Hope at all. It didn't look anything like Hope. But...
Yeah, what I want to ask is... Do you think this move, just cast people and then, give makeup to make them seem more like the adult actors? Yeah. Do you think that's better or worse than the technology Disney really likes right now of digital de-aging?
It's definitely way better because I don't think about it, Okay. It's just happening and I'm this is just the life the character has lived.
Sure.
Versus when you de-age them, I'm not thinking this is how their life actually was. It feels more like this is how they're remembering it.
Okay.
Or it just takes you out of the scene. It's hard to feel like it's real life as opposed to it just feels like you're looking at a movie. I have to remember that scene from the movie rather than trying to remember what happened to them. If that makes sense. There's a difference in feeling to it.
I getcha.
Yeah, the Tony scene with his parents is not... It does not feel like that actually happened that way. It feels like I am remembering a movie about that.
Right.
I think that is the best way I can put it.
Okay.
or like Hank at the beginning of Ant-Man. You know, when he's like de-aged and everything. Ant-Man 1.
Ant-Man 1.
That feels like a recreation of that event in his life, rather than I am watching that event in his life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really all I have to ask about Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay.
So, what are your predictions for the next movie that you're going to watch, Captain Marvel?
I've already given my predictions for that in Infinity War. If you want, go check that out at the very end of... Or maybe I didn't say it. That's in a 5-hour discussion. I should say it again.
Yeah.
Okay, very, very quickly.
Yeah, you can
Captain... I even said it already in this discussion, but Captain America... Fury paged, said, open up the Captain Marvel machine at the end of Infinity War. That's what that was, I think. And then the movie is going to be... maybe that, or maybe that'll be at the end of the movie, but it will be we're going back in time to, I believe, probably around like post Captain America. Like this is like their attempt at like another super soldier, and it did work, but it was through fucked up means, and so Captain Marvel like got awakened and was like, I'm gonna kill you all, and they were like, ah shit, put him back on ice. And she's just been on ice forever.
Okay.
And then now it's like, oh shit, boop, let me, release the devil or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, I assume it's going to be she is going to be a very strong, very nice person, and they were very scared to awaken her because of that. Because they're S.H.I.E.L.D. and she is very nice. That is the only thing I can think of. Like, legitimately, especially with it being like, I don't know if the Fury thing could be tied into something else entirely. Could have just been him calling damage control. I don't know. I'm about to die, damage control. Sweep me out, please.
Oh, no.
So dust here. But, yeah, that's immediately what I think.
Okay. That's good then.
Oh, and of course, I think that, they bring her back, then, like, into the movie, meeting back up with, like, or not meeting back up, but just meeting up with probably Cap, be like, hey, I heard about you through the files, whatever. They made me to be like you, or whatever. Something like that, maybe. It's just some way to tie it into the, like, heroes and everything pre-Endgame. So it doesn't have to be, like, an Endgame, like, show up and be like, blah, blah. I mean, it could be. I don't know how else they would end the movie otherwise. Because my original prediction was for shit to be going wrong, and then for Captain Marvel to just show up and be like, I'm here, Deus Ex Machina, die, Thanos! Lightning bolt.
Oh, no! So in that case, do you think the antagonists are going to be, like, Hydra again?
For what? Oh,
for Captain Marvel?
No, I think it's going to be... Oh, man, I guess I didn't think about what a villain would be or anything. That's tough, because I was just kind of imagining her fighting S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything. So I guess it's just S.H.I.E.L.D. as a villain.
Sure, I mean,
like,
that's perfectly possible.
Yeah, like, them trying to... I think the movie's going to be them trying to capture her, maybe? Oh, now that you said that, it's actually changed. I felt very confident in my theory, but now not so much. Because I feel like they're going to want to do a traditional villain thing. But what could they do that's also something that hasn't been... nobody really like talks about or hears about or anything. So I feel like it's got to be, and Hydra is supposed to be kind of dealt with at that point.
Yeah.
So
like they weren't like looking out for Hydra at all because they were like, yeah, Hydra's done.
Yeah.
Or mostly done.
Mostly. So yeah, I imagine Carter would know something about it then.
Right.
So that's actually interesting. It could just create plot holes, is what I'm saying. Like,
sure,
they could easily just create plot holes in Agent Carter. But, I'm still sticking with my guess. For a villain, I guess I think that this is wrong. The only thing I can guess is that it's going to be her on the run, and they're after her, and she's fighting them, and we get, like, maybe even, like, a Fury being the main villain.
Ooh, Okay.
So, yeah. That's my guess. I don't know if we'll do that, but that's my guess. The fact that we had Fury at the end of the last movie makes me think that Fury is definitely going to play a big role in Marvel. I'm not sure if they're going to try and make him the villain or if they're going to try and say, hey, here's why Fury is a good guy again. Yeah.
Do you think by watching Captain Marvel, you will say, okay, this is what Marvel, the company, is like? She is. In the same way that Captain America stands for the rights of America and the vision, the ideals of America. Do you think Captain Marvel stands for the ideals of Marvel?
Absolutely not. Also, it was so weird that Hope was giving him shit for calling him Cap, and not Captain America. Like, do people call him Captain America still? Like, if you just random person in the street, would they still call him Captain America? I don't think you would.
I think I could see an argument for that, because he is like a historical figure. It is like Alexander Graham Bell or like George Washington. Like, he's a historical American figure.
But you could still say Steve Rogers. They know his name. It's not a secret identity. Like, people in the street would probably not call him Captain America. They would probably call him Steve Rogers now. The war criminal. I don't think he's a war criminal, but...
All right.
Or, I mean, it had to be done.
It sounds like you just agree with the terrorist.
I agree with Captain America. And I can call him Captain America because he stands for my America. I'm not wearing a Marvel shirt for this at all, but I am wearing Marvel pants. Oh,
you're wearing Captain America pants.
Captain America pants for the Ant-Man movie. But, yeah, it was so weird that, you know, got all over that. That was weird to me.
I can see that. I think the movie just wanted to play on the inherent comedy of Scott being such a, like, so separate from everyone else, and yet he is like, yeah, I'm an Avenger.
Yeah, I do love that, like, he has nothing to do with Cap at all. He has had not one interaction with Cap ever, and it's a big, like, oh yeah, you look up to Cap and you're Cap's little buddy. It's like, I don't think Cap barely knows about you. Have they ever exchanged words?
I don't.
Like, even when he's coming out of the van and everything and they've got him, I don't think they...
I don't think they exchanged words in that moment.
Yeah, I don't think they ever have.
Yeah, and I don't think we really see them together until, like, the airport fights.
Yeah, and then in the prison, you know,
yeah,
we just know that Cap, like, got them all out. We don't see him interact with any of them. So it's like, yeah, they have literally never exchanged words ever. And they're like, oh, you embarrassed that Cap's gonna see you like this. It's so weird.
I mean, to be fair, I don't want Cap to see me like that.
To be fair, yeah. I mean, I might. I want Cap to carry me. But,
yeah, good arguments.
That is a much better, like, it's not really real, but it's a much better dynamic than Tony and Peter Parker.
Sure.
Steve and Scott, much better father-son relationship. I love that. I love it because Scott is a father, and Steve isn't, and yet they treat it like Steve's the father and Scott is the kid.
I mean, Steve is old enough to be his dad or his grandpa.
Well, yeah, but if you don't count the time being frozen, Scott might be older than him.
Oh man,
I actually don't know. Steve's very young, like really, he's like 20, like. How old is he? Like 21, 22? He's got to be like extremely young, I thought. Well, actually, never mind.
Yeah, because
a lot of time has passed since he's been woken. But when he was awoken, he was like, when he was awoken.
I mean, even then, in First Avenger, there was a big old time skip.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
Yeah, like they basically just skip over the entire war.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I forget how much time has passed.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to remember how much time has passed.
Because he is like, he's so extremely young when he becomes Captain America, but a lot of time passed. He's probably like closer to 30 now, actually. Whereas Scott, I don't know. Scott actually does seem like he's still like, I wouldn't assume Scott's older than like 27, 28.
Yeah. So I think they would be like comparable ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott definitely I don't know. They look so young.
Like, Scott has the boyish energy, whereas Cap doesn't have the boyish energy, but he still looks very good for his age.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Who would you want to... If you were a superhero and you needed a daddy, which of the Avengers would you want to be your daddy? In the same way that Iron Man is, of course, Spidey's daddy.
Do you need to ask this? You know who my answer is. It's Steve.
Okay.
Of course it's Steve.
If you have to have two daddies and they're in a relationship.
Both Steve.
Oh no.
Two Steves.
Oh, you're broken heads.
Steve and Scott. My two favorite characters from Lost.
Okay, now we have to end this one.
Oh, what a fucking reference.